This podcast is a part of the Podmania podcasting network. Check out podmania.co.uk to check out more of our great podcasts, features, reviews, match ratings and previews spanning the crazy and diverse world of professional wrestling. Hello guys, and welcome to the Stardom Cast, your weekly or sort of audio source of all things World Wonder Ring Stardom right here on the Podmania Podcasting Network. I'm your host, Rob Goodwin, and I'm joined by the fledgling YouTube superstar himself, Chris O'Brien. Chris O'Brien, how are you?
Fledgling.
Fledgling, yeah, because, you know, it's starting, it's gaining momentum.
Yeah, it's going well. We're gonna have to have a serious talk about pay. 'Cause I am a star of this podcast. No, I'm not.
Right. Okay.
Honestly, I have opinions on these shows that might get me ousted from our Discord. But yeah, we should talk about pay because my last video got copyright claimed.
Did it actually?
Yeah, because okay, so initially I put up if I'm considering using the actual footage, I'll put up a bit unlisted to see if it will get claimed. So I put up a bit unlisted with the footage, and it was dicey. So I was like, I'm just going to use photos. This is my Brock Lesnar video, it just came out, and so I just did it with photos, which was fucking awful for the Cena match, by the way, because all the official WWE ones were black and white, so I had to find screenshots, and if I couldn't find screenshots, go take screenshots. It was a time. And then the screenshots came out badly, so I just buckled. Anyway, but yeah, because I'm using entrance themes to introduce the match, both Motorhead and Living Colour have claimed the video. So
really?
if it ever gets monetized, I'm not making money off that Lesnar video. But to be fair, I'm nowhere near monetization yet, so I'm not really that fussed.
I mean, I did enjoy the Brock Lesnar video. If you haven't already checked it out, please do. The rant, just the entire section about Brock's feud with Triple H is highly entertaining. So if you haven't already subscribed and watched it, please do. It is hilariously entertaining. So apart from becoming YouTube's next big thing, the next KSI, what else have you been up to, Chris?
Did you just say the one YouTuber you could think of?
Honestly, it was between him and PewDiePie, and I don't know if PewDiePie is a thing anymore.
Do you not know any, KSI, hasn't he been making a bit of money fighting other YouTubers? Don't you know any of that?
I think he's made more than a bit of money. I think it's millions.
Yeah. And isn't he also a rapper? What a man.
He's also on Celebrity Gogglebox.
To be fair, the celebrity anything on TV stretches the definition of celebrity to its absolute breaking point.
Could not agree more.
Then again, both Gallaghers have appeared on that, so...
I didn't know Liam. No, I didn't know Noel had. I've seen Liam on it.
Noel was on a stand-up to cancer special of it in 2015. I know most things that go on in Noel Gallagher's life. Don't read too much into that. So yeah, apart from that, I've been watching a lot of wrestling over the past wee while. I know that's that. No shit, but it's start of the year. So whenever start of the year happens, I try to go in on promotions that I'm interested in. Last year, I went on Noah, which ended up ruining my life for the whole year. And I've not checked it out yet, but I'm gonna check out the Seedling show because I've heard good things. And also, it includes both Nene and Yoshiko, which is good for our upcoming Stardom show, so it's good background research. By the way, thank you, Velkage, for sending us the watch list for Nene. That was great.
Yes, massive shout out to Velkage. Thank you very much.
Got to watch another Takumi Iroha match. never a bad thing. I also watched the latest TJPW show, which I don't think Velkage is very happy about with me because I do not understand. I do not know the history behind these matches, and apparently there's a lot of history. But then I gave what was it, Yamashita versus Maki Ito 3 3/4 stars, and people are calling it like the match of the year. I'm like, yeah, it's okay.
You did do the same with Omega versus Phoenix as well from the last Dynamite.
But like, to be fair, that was just a spot fest. Like, there's beyond the moves, there's nothing there for me to get excited about.
No, but those two do the wrestling quite well. They do the moves quite well.
At some point, there was a moonsault into a German suplex, which is something I used to do in my fucking figures. And like, that's always going to pop me. And that's actually what got it on my match for year thread on Twitter. You know, the most prestigious part, because Dave Meltzer's a hat. No, it's not. I'm being mean to poor Dave.
Like Dave is going to give a shit.
Hey, by the sounds of it, Dave needs some education on Stardom. So.
Well, you've done very well to transition into what we're going to talk about initially.
I need to try when Garth's not here.
Yeah, I need to try when Garth's not here. Garth, the king of segues. Yeah, we've got a couple of things to talk about on this podcast. We've got, obviously, the New Year Stars Tour is in the process of wrapping up. It wraps up on the 24th and... No, it's just the 24th. There's a day and night show on the 24th. So we've had 5 nights of that, and then obviously it is the 10th anniversary show at Korakuen, which is just finished uploading today. So we're going to review all of those. Not all of the matches from the New Year Stars Tour. We're just going to cherry pick some of the matches because you think you want to hear us talk about 5 matches on 5 different nights, but you really, really, really don't. So there's only so much Oida Tai versus DDM in the main event that we can stomach, really.
There's only so many Unagi singles matches we can go of.
Well, in a moment, I'm going to shock you all. Anyway, so talking about Big Dave, he's come out with 2 interesting stories this week. Now, the first one is in regard to Mayu, who it was announced that she was going to take a couple of shows off because she was in poor physical condition, which, if you watch Mayu matches, is not surprising in any way. But Dave put in the Wrestling Observer newsletter, this is the quote that I took from Facebook, and I cannot remember who posted it, so I apologise, but this is the quote. If you understand Japanese women's wrestling, such an injury would have to be pretty significant to keep her out. She's booked for the January 17th Korakuen show, but only in the opener, a tag elimination with Ruaka, which presumably means they'll be eliminated quickly. I guess we'll know after the 17th the extent of this injury based on how physical she gets. If she doesn't do any bumps, that's not a good sign. However, showing up at all is a good sign, so I don't know. Basically, what Dave has said is, Mayu is hurt, it could be something, or it could be nothing. Now, first things first, before I throw it to you, Chris, it is worth completely debunking this, because Mayu has been booked in the main event, I believe, of the 24th show, the night show of the 24th in a singles match with Tam. So, I can't see it. I'm not saying that she's not hurt, I'm not saying that the back injury isn't bad. There have been photos with her having sort of massages on her back, and there's been machines and wires wired up to her back. So obviously she is in quite a lot of pain with it. What I will say is, jumping ahead to the 17th, the back tape was off. And the last time we saw Mayu, which was year-end climax, I believe, she was very, very, very heavily taped. So she didn't do a tremendous amount on the elimination tag, but she still did a gnarly-looking suicide dive, which is Mayu's Mayu's trademark at the moment. So fingers crossed, it's just a build-up and nothing that a little bit of time off won't fix. People on Facebook, I think, were a little bit concerned that it was going to be a retirement thing. I don't think it's that at all. Thinking positively, I think she's hurt and she's probably going to take a little bit of time off, but I don't see it being anything huge. What about you, Chris?
I hadn't heard about this, I didn't really notice anything in the May match here. If she's been booked, I guess it's not awful, but also we know that wrestlers shouldn't be in charge of when they should and shouldn't wrestle.
No, agreed.
So I can't comment. At some point, we do need to try and get a Stardom Insider because
if there is anybody out there, ladies and gentlemen, that listens to our podcast that is willing to be our Stardom Insider, we will pay you handsomely in gifts.
We will send you memes. We will give you head pats. We cannot afford to give you money.
We will shout you out on the podcast. We literally have nothing else.
We can offer you Garth. I think he'll take any excuse not to be around his kids.
Which, to be fair, we might have to pay them to take Garth.
He's just sitting there going, "But Josie nerd." It's like, Garth, stop it.
Basically, what we've said is, you can be our Stardom Insider, and we'll give you an angry old man who hates all Japanese wrestling.
Yeah, but I don't know, like, because we know from Arisa that Stardom doesn't always step in when people definitely do need time off. So I can't comment because I literally don't know, and I can kind of just hope that it's not that, because then Stardom are currently in a rebuilding process. They're establishing their new main event scene as kind of seen on this show, or on our main show today. So, but you kind of need Mayu and to a bit of a lesser extent Momo to hold that down. And without Mayu, it's going to be bad news, really, isn't it? Because let me put it this way: it's there are other stars in, say, I swear to God, if you do the beep, I will hurt you. There are more stars in All Japan than Kenta Miyahara, but I'm going to cause a conspiracy somehow, so that everywhere you go, just in the distance somewhere, the Greatest Showman will be playing.
With you.
The Greatest Showman will be playing, and you will not know where it's coming from. It will be too far away for you to stop, and it will drive you fucking insane. And to the point where when you do that Miyahara alarm, all you could be able to shout is, "This is me." That's all you'll be able to do. You'll turn into a fucking Pokemon. Now, there's more stars in All Japan than Kento, but if he left right now, All Japan would end up in a pretty sorry state, wouldn't it? Because they have no one on that level. Stardom has no one right now on sort of Mayu's level. They're building people, but that takes time. So
I think aside from being tremendous in ring, I mean, we're talking about it as though, it's a huge negative. This is, fingers crossed, it's absolutely nothing. She is now booked on other shows. So let's just take that with a pinch of salt. But she's been there since the start. She was a tremendous red belt champion last year. I think it would be a very different conversation if she was still red belt champion and was still putting on 20-minute, really, really high impact matches in the way that she was doing last year. But especially at the moment, she can get away with being in comedy 6-woman tags, which is pretty much what she has been doing the entirety of this tour. So let's just take it with a pinch of salt. Let's just assume that everything is okay. Okay, I know that obviously the Arisa example is the glaring anomaly. And obviously we've had, was it Shuki? I can never say a name. Ashino? Yeah, it's Ashino, that retired late last year as well. So, look, let's just assume it's nothing. We hope it's nothing. She's been booked on shows, so let's just assume it's just a little bit of wear and tear, that she does need some time off eventually, which wouldn't be out of the realms of possibility, to be perfectly honest.
If you want to give her time off after the show, would have been perfect, because you want her there for the couple of weeks leading up to Budokan, but especially right now, since they're obviously trying to go for a bit of main event on the younger side for Budokan. It would have been a good time for her to step away for a bit if she needed the time off.
Yeah, no, agreed. Moving on from Mayu then, Dave posted something else about Riho, and this is a lot more interesting because obviously it was widely reported that Riho was completely done with Stardom, and that she was going back to All Elite Wrestling. Dave published the following, which is a little bit of a head scratcher. They can bring her in. The thing with her is that she lives in Japan, then she'd have to quarantine to go back, and that's a tough deal. If she was living there, she'd be on TV every week. They do bring Pac back and forth, which is a kind of a hassle. He comes here for a couple of weeks, then he has to quarantine for 2 weeks, then go home. 2 weeks just to get home. It's not worth staying home for a week. If you've got to take 2 weeks to get home, so it's really tough. It's just a tough business right now. It's a tough world. That will be the same with Riho, I think, like with Pac. I think they've got ideas for Pac to be in major matches, so it's worth doing. But Riho, it's not like there's going to be great major matches for her, so it's kind of like, why put her through this, I guess. They haven't used Shima and T-Hawk and Lindemann either for the same reason or similar reasons, because it's just not worth bringing them in. Now, that's a bizarre thing to read for, well, one massive reason. Why has Riho wrapped up with Stardom to go to a promotion that aren't going to book her because, you know, of obvious circumstances? And I do appreciate, you know, you are going to have to spend a lot of time isolating to be on television. But it does raise the question, if she's not going to be wrestling for Stardom, she's not going to be wrestling for All Elite Wrestling. And, you know, let's be honest, Dave gets a little bit mocked for his knowledge on Joshi Wrestling because he dips in and out, which is absolutely fine, but it's All Elite Wrestling. He's going to know considerably more about that, so I do tend to believe what he's written about this. Why is Riho stopped wrestling with Stardom? That doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Riho was wrestling for other places as well before, alongside Stardom. Like, she's appeared in DDT and stuff like that, which AEW have somewhat of a working relationship with, but not really. It's weird. So I wouldn't be surprised if she's not booking for Stardom because of the ultimatum we talked about. Was it last time or the time before? One of the two. And then, but she might wrestle like in different promotions. Like, look at Sari, where she's basically contracted to WWE, but she's still appearing in like Seedling and TJP. So it might be a case of she'll still be wrestling in Japan under like the same restrictions AEW's put on her in Stardom, but in different places, maybe.
Fair enough. I thought it was a really
that.
Yeah. It
like I think it's more of a long term
really
thing. Like I think that's more of a long term thing where AEW is going to give her more in the long term than in Stardom, because like if you were to place Riho in Stardom right now, the only place you'd really want her is the high speed division. In terms of like the style she wrestles, because she doesn't really throw bombs well enough to do well in the main event scenes. So you can either be the head of an admittedly pretty rubbish women's division elsewhere, or you can be mid-card here, and in like the long term, AEW probably seems more profitable, like overall in both money and exposure, than Stardom.
Which is fine, and I completely accept that point, but if she's not going to be booked in All Elite Wrestling, what's the point? What's the point? And I understand that Stardom are wanting to sign everyone. They're trying not to rely as much on freelancers. You know, we've just had Natsupoi sign a contract with Stardom, which I'm very, very excited about. So I do understand it from that standpoint, but ultimately, Riho now isn't wrestling for Stardom and now isn't wrestling for All Elite Wrestling. And again, it's only what's been reported in the newsletter, but even so, that's another interesting thing. Like, why go to other Japanese wrestling companies when, if what we are led to believe were the conditions of Riho wrestling in Stardom in the first place, they're going to be the same conditions that she's got to wrestle under in any promotion in Japan, because ultimately she's contracted to All Elite Wrestling. So why leave? Why leave? If there's a guaranteed sort of, you are going to be booked here, and here in All Elite, then fine, okay. But in that meantime, why not carry on in Stardom? Yes, we've talked about how she was giving about 25%, but I still stand by the fact that she's limited by what she's been told to do. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Again, in the long term, I think that that's what she's looking at instead of just for now, because if we're led to believe that this thing's almost over, so I think she sees in like 6 months, 7 months, maybe she'd be willing to wait out a year. AEW will be there, and she'd rather. And if Stardom's not wanting part-timers, because is there any freelancers Stardom are using right now? Now that Natsu Place signed.
The only one that you can really think of is Natsu Samiya, and that's obviously she's out with injury at the moment. So
so we don't actually know where that's going to go. So in that case, she might just get booked in a different promotion instead of Stardom, because again, she has an in with like DDT. She has and
Gato
doing
move.
short. Yeah, and that's the thing. With say she goes with like DDT or something like she did earlier last year rather. Doing stupid undercard comedy matches will probably be less annoying to DDT's fan base.
Yeah, no, fair enough. I just it was one of those where I read it and I was like, I'm gonna have to talk about this on the podcast because I couldn't get my head around it. Anyway, let's concentrate on stuff that we are here to talk about, and that is the New Year's Stars Tour. Now, there's been 5 dates up to the 10th anniversary show, and again, like I said before, I'm not going to run through every single match from every single night because again, it's a lot. So we're just going to cherry pick some of the matches. So the first show of the tour took place on the 2nd of January. In Shinkiba First Ring in front of 161 people. And I just want to highlight, Chris, not in loads and loads of detail, the main and the semi-main. So the first was Utami Hayashishita in a non-title singles match with Unagi Sayaka. Oh my life, I butchered that name, didn't I? Unagi Sayaka at 10 minutes and 18 seconds with the Argentine backbreaker. And you know what? Fuck it. I enjoyed this match.
You enjoyed a match from a promotion you enjoy? Oh shit! Fuck!
I've said on many occasions, and this is going to ring true for the match on the anniversary show. Honestly, I thought Unagi showed a lot of character, and what offense she does actually have looked a little bit more crisp than it did before. She really had that babyface fire, and it helped as well that the crowd were really behind her. I still find her a little bit bland, but she's trying to improve. There was a big frog splash to the outside, which looked really good. She was given a lot by Utami as well. She kicked out of the air raid crash, so it's a marked improvement, and it's worth rubber stamping here that this, I believe, is her first, or was her first, singles match in Stardom. So she looked considerably less lost. And that's been the real thing for me. There's been a lack of offense and a little bit bland. And the fact that in tag matches, she's often looking to Tam, especially for things like positioning and things. And when she's in a singles match, there was far less of that. And there is going to be far more of a spotlight on Unagi with Mina being out with the broken nose for 2 months. So she is going to be thrust more into the spotlight, potentially more than she was going to be originally. But I thought she gave a really good account of herself here. I thought Utami looked brilliant. She gave Unagi a lot, like I said before, maybe a little bit too much. But overall, a good match, solidified Unagi as an underdog, which is the character that we needed to play, the one with the babyface fire. And ultimately, I gave it 3 1/4. I thought it was a really entertaining match, Chris.
This is a match I had on but didn't watch properly, if that makes sense.
Completely
so I can't speak to it properly, but yeah, it was fine. It was a fine enough match, especially against the champion, and Utami isn't quite at the point where she can carry people yet, so it had to take 2 to tango here, and they tangoed okay. It was a fine enough D-show match.
That brings us on to the main event then of night one, which was the best of 3 falls match between Donna Del Mondo, the team of Julia, Maika, Natsupoi, and Shiori, taking on Ueda Tai, Bea Priestley, Konami, Natsuko Tora, and Saki Kashima, beating them 2-1, with the final fall taking place at 17 minutes and 33 seconds. Now, the reason I wanted to bring this up, Chris, is because
Newcastle lost 2-1 recently.
Shut the fuck up.
Did we actually? I just took it to stab in the dark. Have they actually lost 2-1 recently?
Chris, you could say, have Newcastle lost at any time of the year, and the chances are you are right.
But was it 2-1?
We lost 2-1 to Leicester about 3 weeks ago. In the meantime, we've lost to Arsenal twice without scoring. We've lost to Man City.
To Leicester? I didn't even know Leicester had a football team. God, you must be shite.
Leicester won the Premier League 4 years ago.
Oh. But good for them.
Jesus fucking Christ.
I don't watch football.
So there's plenty of good to come out of this match, but as apparently comes part and parcel with most Ueda time matches, there was some fucking head-scratching booking. Now, just quickly, Chris, did you watch this match?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I didn't take notes, but as a joke, I just copy and pasted my notes from previous.
Every Ueda time match is the same. There was just a couple of things. The first thing is, give me Konami versus Shiori now, you cowards. What an exchange to start off with. It's the most invigorated I've seen Konami since the turn. And that will bleed into her match with Natsupoi on the Korakuen show. She looked genuinely at ease with the character. She was fighting viciously, and her and Shiori very, very much complement each other. And I've seen people say that, well, Konami isn't over because Shiori does the same sort of thing. And I do agree with that. However, if you look at Shiori concentrating a lot on the strikes, and then you look at Konami, who at the moment is now focusing a lot more on the submission, ground-based game, they're not massively similar now. They have their differences. They are far enough apart for you to be able to have Konami in a prominent position and Shiori in a prominent position, which I think people were thinking was the issue. The opening exchange was terrific, and they will continue to fight throughout the tour, which I thought was brilliant. We waited. This match went 17 minutes and 33 seconds. The first fall didn't happen until the 14th minute. 14 minutes and 13 seconds, to be precise.
So long had went by that I forgot it was 2 out of 3 falls.
Exactly. Now, this is the thing. There are a couple things that really boggled my mind about this match. Now, the first, okay, Tora hits Julie with the chair, hits her with a Death Valley bomb for the win. That's fine. That is heel. That's fine. I don't mind that. That's not the issue. Now, just after that, okay, less than 40 seconds later, 37 seconds later, in fact, Donna Del Mondo are then level because Tora gets herself DQ'd by the chain hanging spot. Now, I know I hate this spot to my very core. Every molecule of my being hates this fucking move. But,
much like Newcastle's manager.
Exactly. Thank you, mate. A cynical man would call them nonsensical idiots. And while them using this fucking tripe so often that it just lends themselves to being called that, the impact is significantly lessened. However, in a 3 falls match, Chris, basic heel psychology is you beat them into a pulp. You sacrifice a fall to beat them into a pulp. You look at the great example of this is Extreme Rules 2012, and I'm sorry I'm referencing the WWE, but it's the example that I like to use. In Extreme Rules 2012, Daniel Bryan is the heel, Sheamus is the face, which is a baffling dynamic looking back at it, but there we are. Daniel Bryan was a fantastic heel, but there we are.
Yeah, Rob hates the Irish.
Daniel Bryan realizes that Sheamus's leg, or I think it's his arm, I can't remember, it's ages since I've seen the match, but he realizes that a body part is fucked. When he gets the first fall, he realizes that it's absolutely fucked. So he sacrifices that second fall, thinking, do you know what? I'm going to target that, and that way then I know that he's not going to be able to come back and get that third fall. I'm going to sacrifice this fall so that I know I get the third fall. Now, that in a singles match is good heel psychology. That works. Where it fell apart here, Chris, was that Julia got hanged and then immediately tagged out. Immediately tagged out. So that Syuri came in. And it was like... So that does just make Oedo Tai look like fucking idiots. And then, of course, they did lose with Natsupoi hitting the German suplex on Saki. So, ultimately, then I understand the psychology, and I understand what they were trying to achieve, which is me defending the recent incarnation of Oedo Tai, which is something that I haven't done in the entire 23 episodes I've been doing this fucking podcast. But that made them look stupid. The booking was ridiculous. If they'd have spent ages, it didn't even require a lot of booking changes. All you had to do was have the first fall happen earlier. Okay, even the second fall happen earlier. And then have an extended period where you just beat the piss into Julia. Have Julia keep kicking out. And then eventually get Julia to tag out. Don't have it happen instantly.
Or you could have it play out as the second... Tori gets herself DQ'd and then DDM on the back foot for the rest of the match because we have a numbers disadvantage. There were plenty of ways they could have played this.
It seemed like the idea was there, and then the execution was so lazy. And I must admit...
Oedo Tai.
No, I did feel sorry for Oedo Tai, because that booking should make sense. But when Julie just rolls over and tags, it was Natsupoi she tagged in. And it was like, oh, okay, so that's that then. And then less than 3 minutes later, they'd lost. And it was just really jarring. Really pointless, and it made Oedo Tai look stupid, which unfortunately we seem to be getting more and more of, especially with these chain spots. However, much as I have ragged on the match, the opening and a lot of the in-ring action and chemistry that took place in those first 40 minutes was very, very good. So I gave it 2 3/4 stars, just because, shambolic booking aside, I thought the women in ring did a pretty good job.
Yeah, they tried. They were fighting an uphill battle with the booking, which is always the case with Oedo Tai matches in the past. Since Kagetsu left, really.
Yeah.
So, yeah, poor stable. Right, we have another one of these to talk about. Great.
No, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to veto it. So we're gonna go to night 2 then, which was on the 3rd of January, again for on Shinkiba First Ring, again in front of 161 people. We're not going to talk about the main event because it's almost an exact carbon copy of the match that you've just seen, to the point where the fall happens in the 14th minute. So it's DDM and Oedo Tai. I'm not going to bother talking about that. You're not missing a lot. What I will say, however, just quickly going back to night 1, the Stars tag team match, Mayu, Sayurida and Starlight Kid versus Azumi Momo and Saya Kamatani. That is absolutely worth a watch. Go and check that out. That was easily match of the night. The match I want to talk about from night 2, Chris, is the time limit draw between Momo Watanabe and Syuri, and I wanted to talk to you about it for a couple of reasons. The first, at the end of night 1, Syuri sort of takes pity on Momo, with Bea Priestley doing her typical, show pie shtick, which was really rammed home throughout this tour, and sort of was like, right, well, actually, Momo is a really, really good wrestler. And it seemed that this match was almost there for Syuri to show everyone just how good Momo Watanabe was and is. And this match was brilliant. It was a really, really good, high-speed sort of prelude to what we're going to get on the 30th of January.
It was good, but one thing I need to point out is that Momo has essentially pitied her way into 2 title shots in the past couple months.
Maybe that's a new gimmick.
Just, can I have a title shot? No, just a fucking Puss in Boots thing from Shrek.
Look how many times I've lost, though. All right, you can have a title match. Go on, Momo.
Yeah, this was good. I'm a very easy person to please. So when we spent for the last half of this match basically just taking turns kicking the tire out of each other, I was fine. One thing about this match, and it's an obvious thing being a prelude to a title match, they were definitely holding back a bit. Like, this felt like a prolonged sequence they'd get in a tag match, which I'm fine with, because it's a Road to show. So I don't want them to give away the big match here. I'm happy to have this preview. But yeah, this is really fun. And to be fair, like, we've been waiting for this match for, well, basically since Shiri came in. We've been teasing it ever since then. So I'm kind of glad it's happened, and we're finally going to get a proper version of this match come the next big show. So,
not only that, it's the main event of the Korakuen Hall show on the 30th. So they're going to be given a lot of time. So
yeah.
I think, you know, we talked especially around September, October time about just being inundated with time limit draws, and just they seem to be really, really lazy booking tropes. However, here I thought it made perfect sense. You know, both women are of a similar caliber, of a similar style, and they need more than 15 minutes to separate them. I liked that as a very basic story going into the SWA title match. I gave it 3.5 stars, Chris. Like you, I think, you know, it's very much... The example I'm going to give is like Okada and Ibushi at G1 Climax 29. They had a very, very, very good...
Why be so mean to them?
They had a very, very good block match. A very good block match. But everybody knew that they could have a better match. And then, as it transpired, Kota Ibushi would win the G1 Climax and then would go on to have an exceptional match against Okada at Wrestle Kingdom. So, using that
what you
as
just
your
said
template...
there is like the headline for most Ibushi versus Okada matches. It could have been better. I feel these two can do better. I agree. I went slightly higher. I went 3 3/4. This did make it onto my match of the year thread. But yeah, I have a feeling the actual match is like this match, the Momo Shuri match coming up, is the first time in a while I've been hyped for a match going in. I think the last time that happened, it was a Stardom match last time that happened, but I can't remember what one it was because time numbs all emotions. I don't remember. But this is great. Again, just have two people kicking guitar at each other. I'm probably going to be a little bit happy. Rob has seen what I like. I sent him. I think it was on a Freedom show. I think that's what it was from. It was a package pile driver off of the apron, and they did not react happy to that in the group chat. Nor did Rob react happily to the Darby Allin thing. I tagged him in earlier.
So night 3 took place from KFC Hall. It was a daytime show from the 4th of January. This was in front of 186 people. And the match I want to talk about is the 3-way 9-woman tag team match. Now, the reason I want to bring this up is because apparently no fucker had any idea what the rules were. And in fact, DDM's entire promo was trying to work out what the fuck was supposed to be the rules. Because the idea was that there were no touch rules, which means you don't have to tag in and out. Where in a match that contains Ueda Tai, who instantly pulled everyone out of the ring, I instantly completely lost who was the legal woman. However, this, as Chris can attest, this had a lot of the tropes of matches that I hate. We had the suplex spot. We had the giant chain head scissors spot. And it's stuff that I'm not really bothered about in my wrestling. However, this match, I genuinely enjoyed. It was chaotic, fun. The action goes at a terrific speed. And we see yet another example of Sayarida coming out of her shell, endearing herself to the audience, giving us something a little bit different to the Sayarida that we've seen before, showing that she actually has pretty good comedic timing, especially when she's with Mayu. I really enjoyed this match, Chris, far more than I think I should have done.
Yeah, this whole show, as you should expect from basically most things of January 4th that aren't Wrestle Kingdom that aren't taking place next to Wrestle Kingdom or aren't the Tokyo Joshi show, are kind of just there to be little. From what I understand, but because Korakuen's right next to the Tokyo Dome or KFC Hall, is that near the Tokyo Dome? Probably is. But it's basically just meant to be like a nice wee show to go to before you go into Tokyo Dome. So, they're never going to produce anything great. But yeah, this was fun. This wasn't meant to be taken seriously, and everyone kind of knew that. I'm surprised you because my note, I took one note for this match, and that I bet Rob fucking hated this. Because of all those spots you mentioned, I was like, shit, Rob will probably not like this at all.
The thing is, you look at the other match that I can think of that had this trope in, and it was the 5-woman from Sendai Cinderella. And that was set as a serious match. And as soon as you try and put something or a spot like that in a serious, or something that is billed as a serious match, you're instantly lost, because you're like, well, it's clearly not a serious match. However, here it was never billed as anything less than a comedy, sort of house showy spot fest, which it was, and because it packaged itself as that, I actually really, really liked it. It didn't overdo the stupid spots. If it was just, big suplexes and stupid head scissor chains, then I'd be giving a completely different review of the match. However, because we had stuff like Sayarida and Mayu going on a tear, and then turning around and both Konami and Surya staring at them, and Sayarida bails and leaves Mayu on her own, just little subtle things like that, everyone being locked in a submission, and then Sayarida realising that she's the only one there. And actually, she just stands on the turnbuckle and starts beating her chest. And then that carries on, and on, and on. And it's really quite funny. So, because it was stuff like that and not over-the-top, stupid comedy, I was far more entertained by it.
I like the over-the-top stupid shit.
Sorry, it is now massively hailing outside. No, it's snowing. Oh, sorry, my girlfriend's just come in and is telling me it's snowing outside.
Oh, we don't get snow here because we're next to the coast. And it doesn't lie. And it's bad because whenever it does snow, there's a really nice hill to go sledging. And I enjoy sledging. It reminds me of being a child who had hope. And then you can't do it anymore because life is meaningless.
The fuck is wrong with you? Honestly, Jesus fucking Christ.
I surprise myself sometimes.
There was a bit where Mayu attempts to interject herself in a Surya and Konami kickoff, just gets belted across the ring, and then they carry on kicking each other. It was
She's not
genuinely...
the smartest, is she, Mayu?
Well, we'll get into that during the Korakuen show. But genuinely, it was a fun spot fest that packaged itself as nothing else. And apart from Starlight Kid getting a nosebleed, which I've checked 2 or 3 times, and I think it was literally just a nosebleed. I don't think she caught a knee or an elbow or anything. So it was literally just a nosebleed.
Maybe she just picked her nose off camera because she had a booger and she went too far.
Imagine
as kids are want to do.
I gave this 3 1/4, Chris.
I didn't rate it. I thought it was a bit too pure to rate.
Oh no, I think if something's good, then it deserves a rating, and therefore I think I was a little bit lenient with it, but I enjoyed it.
I didn't do it out of not liking the match. I did it because I thought the match was too pure. This isn't meant to be judged. I feel bad judging it.
So we move on to night 4, which was from the 9th of January, and what a fantastic segue from it snowing outside to the fact that apparently they had more snow in Akita than at any other point. It was absolutely piled up outside, and pretty much every Stardom wrestler's Instagram and Twitter was filled with them just jumping into snow, throwing snowballs at each other. Natsuko Tora attempting to spear a snowdrift might be my favourite thing I've ever seen.
Aside from Shuri, who seems to spend most of the New Year shitposting.
Exactly. This was their first time in Akita, apparently, in front of 246 people. We're going to just quickly run through the main event of this show, and it's one of those where it's nothing particularly special. It was Queen's Quest, 6-woman tag, Momo, Utami, and Azumi defeating Donna Del Mondo, Julia, Maika, and Natsupoi at 15 minutes and 8 seconds with the Tequila Sunrise. Genuinely, the only reason I want to mention this is because Natsupoi was given a huge spotlight in this match. And I don't want to say that so far she's been packaged as somewhat of a pin eater for DDM, but as Maika is going for a title shot, you don't want to pin Maika, so it's pretty much fallen on Natsupoi or Himika. So it was nice to see what she could do. They teased very, very, very good chemistry with both Azumi and Momo, which would obviously go on to be highlighted at the end of the Korakuen match. Overall, I thought a decent outing for both teams. Maika continued to look strong heading into a title match. Again, another house showy main event. I gave it 3 stars.
House showy main event, just none special. Natsupoi getting more of a spotlight was nice because she's really good. And has a staff, and I don't think anyone else cares about that, but hey, I think it's cool. I was happy about this because for the last Queen's Quest versus DDM match, I can remember Utami dropped Julia on her head. So an actual that not happening kind of just raised this up for me. I was like, oh, good. Julia didn't almost die. Everything's fine.
Moving on then to the final night of the tour before the Korakuen show, which was from the 11th of the 1st from Sendai Pit in front of 212 people that were considerably louder than the Sendai Cinderella crowd. Going to the main event. Are you ever going
to let that go?
No, I'm fucking not. No, I'm not.
It's going to be like later this year at like the biggest show of the year or whatever. Like we're gonna get to Budokan and you're gonna be like, well, the crowd were good. They were louder than fucking Sendai.
Mate, there are empty arena matches with more atmosphere than Sendai Cinderella. Abysmal. Absolutely abysmal.
Because up there you have managers shouting.
Oh, yeah. So main event was a tag team match with Julia and Shuri defeating the Cosmic Angels team of Tam Nakano and Unagi Sayaka at 17 minutes and 48 seconds with the STF. I wanted to bring this up, Chris, because it was a match I genuinely enjoyed again. And there was just little story beats, especially with Unagi, because you get the impression, or at least I get the impression, that she's scared of losing in a tag setting, being the one that is pinned, being the one to disappoint. And this permeates the pre-match promo. She says how she doesn't want to disappoint Tam. Tam wants to win and therefore so does she. And, all of these kind of things. And it adds another layer to her character when it comes to the match. She is instantly isolated by DDM, who find her as the weak link in the team. And though she fights, she shows resilience and fight, and it's one of her, if not her best outing in a tag team setting. She's polished off by Julia with an STF, which isn't even her tertiary finisher. So even though she is resilient, even though she has babyface fire, she's still not on a level where she can compete with the likes of Julia and Shuri. And Julia's post-match promo, where she pretty much eviscerates Unagi. She is fucking vile to this woman. It was an interesting match. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I gave it 3.25 stars. Just because we're seeing a little bit of personality in Unagi.
That's an amazing use of the word tertiary.
Thank you. When I wrote it, I was really proud of myself as well.
I always whenever I was writing like research project for uni or an essay, whenever I use a really fancy word without having to use the synonym tool in Word, I was like, you know what, Chris? You've earned the day off. What?
Just write one really long word. Do you know what? I'm using that in context. I am going home.
Life as a student. Yeah, I basically just agree. It's awful when we agree because I have nothing to add.
I like to think, Chris, it's because I've done such a good analysis of the match.
Yeah, I want to see more Shuri versus Tam stuff though.
Agreed. Yeah, so do I. I think we are heading towards more Tam and Julia stuff, just from
again.
Well, this is the thing. We've had Tam's pre-match promo talking about how she hasn't forgotten the promise that she made to Julia. Now, the chances are we're not going to get all the way through Julia's reign without follow-up on that promise, because it was such a pivotal story last year.
Or Aretha comes back.
Keep dreaming, mate.
A man can dream.
I think the chances are we are going to get Tam and Julia at Budokan, which we have seen quite a few times. Now, Julia, I believe, has got a defense in February. Spoilers, she retains at the anniversary show. I believe she's got a defense in February, and then she'll obviously go on to Budokan. So, who do you see it being? Because you need to have a strong match on that card. You need to have a strong white belt match on that card. And there are plenty of people who, would have a great match with Julia. You can argue that Momo Watanabe would have a great match with her. You can argue that someone like Starlight Kid would have a great match with her. But you've got the history, you've got the storyline going in with someone like Tam. It does ruin a little bit of my fantasy booking when we get to questions at the end of the show. But I imagine it's going to have to be Tam, because you look at the rest of the card and no one really strikes me as a white belt challenger. That doesn't mean that it isn't going to be anyone else. We've seen just from the Korakuen show how quickly they can turn someone into a challenger. I don't see a better match, personally.
Tora rematch, except this time it's an exploding barbed wire death match.
You're such a fucking idiot. Anyway, Chris.
Rude.
Let's move on to the main event, as it were. Let's look at the anniversary show, which took place on the 17th of January at Korakuen Hall in front of 713 people. And from the photos and the videos that we see, I imagine under the current COVID guidelines, 713 people is going to be roughly a sellout for Korakuen. I imagine, because that's over half.
Yes, and oh boy, they were not socially distanced well, were they?
No, they were not. No, they were not.
They were on top of each other, like, Jesus. And it was weird. And isn't Tokyo meant to be close to... Well, it feels like it's been close to declaring a state of emergency all month, because it has been.
It has been, yeah. Nothing. I haven't read anything else about that, so...
Like, it's Boris Johnson running Japan, too.
What a pleb. I am just going to mention, just before we start off our reviews of some of the matches, something that wasn't televised, but something that someone called @1222 Dragon Moon on Twitter has been kind enough to put onto Twitter so that we actually know it happened, has put what happened at the start of the show. So they've put, at the beginning, all the members of the roster entered the ring by faction with their brand new sweatsuits on, which I think you'll agree look fantastic. And Maika Iwatani represented the roster and made some opening remarks. After those opening remarks, Yoshiko appeared on the screen and demanded that Stardom or Maika Iwatani should respond to her challenge within a week, or they would never have a match. Rossi Ogawa later issued a statement that Stardom would not run away and they would not hide.
That's a good way to do it. Like, have it done and spread through word of mouth instead of actually putting it up. Because in this weird faction warfare and for invaders, you wouldn't put them on your show if they did something like that, would you?
No, I agree.
I assume in like kayfabe, Yoshiko is like working with Mustafa Ali and they hacked into the Korakuen Hall PA system or something. But that would actually be amazing.
Spoiler: Yoshiko is the SmackDown hacker.
Yeah, Retribution turn up. Great stuff. Not really. Not at all. Imagine. But yeah, but I think that's the correct way to do it. I think it would be more impactful if she actually turned up to do it. But I guess you don't want to have to pay someone just to turn up for something you're not even going to televise. So.
No. And
so, like, this is something WCW did with the NWO, isn't it? Like, where they wouldn't sell NWO t-shirts or whatever, because why would you sell someone else's merch? Actually, you know who else did this? ICW. There was a fight between Joe Hendry and Lionheart, and we were trying to put it like Lionheart had made comments about Hendry's wife or whatever, and it boiled over to like a shoot, quote unquote, and they didn't put it on demand to try and put over the fact that it was a shoot. So you know what? I'm into this kind of thing.
It's looking like we're going to get Mayu versus Yoshiko at Budokan, which is the direction we thought they were heading anyway. There hasn't been any movement on a potential Nene Takahashi and Momo Watanabe match, so we'll wait and see. In that regard, that was the other direction I felt that they were heading, but it does look like we're going to get Yoshiko versus Mayu, so that should be a very, very, very entertaining match.
And so I can't hear Nene Takahashi's name without thinking of that fucking song from a few years ago.
Let me Nene. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I'm sure you love that as a teacher.
So many songs I love as a teacher. Sorry, I was taking a drink of tea. I thought you were going to talk for longer than that, so I thought I could sneak in a brew. But
like, yeah, it's bad because I have to hold myself back from muttering it when you say Nene. It's like, oh fuck, no. Like, and I'm planning on watching Seedling either today or tomorrow, and that's probably going to happen every time I say Nene on commentary. That's going to be a time.
Let's delve straight into these matches then. So we opened with the Future of Stardom Championship match with the champion Sairida defeating Unagi Sayaka at 12 minutes and 4 seconds with the newly christened Diamond Dust. Sairida's in new gear tonight, Chris, which is a step up.
Sairida looking like Reptar, which is
absolutely
a choice. Well, didn't she also have Reptar on her tights? She had a dinosaur looking thing on her tights.
I think it was a gorilla, mate.
Oh, well, it looked like a dinosaur. It looked like Reptar. Maybe, like, honestly, Sairida's Reptar changed my mind. She wants to eat. No, but Reptar didn't say that, did it?
No.
Who said that? I'm trying to remember. I've not watched Rugrats since I was a child. Who said that? Who said I want to eat in Rugrats? Come on,
Chris, just listen to what you're doing, mate. just come out of your body for a second and realise that you are in the midst of a Stardom podcast and you've hijacked it in order to make very, very poor Rugrats references that you can't remember anyway.
I mean, like, how much Rugrats do you remember?
I remember there was a ginger one called Chucky. The bald... The main character, was it Tommy?
Tommy.
Yeah. He looked older than an actual baby. He had an old face. He had like an old man face.
Have you ever seen Rugrats All Grown Up?
Angelica! I remember Angelica.
Have you ever seen Rugrats All Grown Up? It's like them as teenagers. It's weird.
No, of course I fucking haven't. How did we get here? What? Honestly, why do you listen to us?
Also, like, does it annoy you about how naturally I lead you down the Rugrat rabbit hole?
Some people would argue it's the chemistry we have, and others would argue it's just we just talk bollocks. We really do.
Yeah, to be fair, I feel like I lead you on some dark paths sometimes.
Don't say it like that. Fucking hell. Jesus.
No, we all know Garth's a bad influence on us. Anyway, yeah, this match was fine. I'm not gonna lie, most of my notes are reptile related, so I was kind of covering up for myself. Ida has great fire. Like, she has really good babyface fire, only that doesn't work when she's the veteran in the match, which she was here. Like, this was a fairly decisive championship defense, which is fine, but also Ida hasn't quite learned how to do that yet. She's best in either six-mans or singles matches against people who are above her station. She hasn't learned to work downwards yet, and she will. That's the whole point of giving her the future title, to learn how to actually carry herself like a champion, but she kind of needs to work on that, because babyface fire doesn't really work when you're doing it for literally the whole match when you're on top.
I've actually said, you've pretty much said my notes verbatim. I've just said that this, in one way, is the biggest test that Sayarida has had, because she's had good to great matches with people above her station, like Momo and Mayu. But how is she going to cope in a match where she is ultimately leading the match? And I thought she did okay. I thought it was a good match. I think it was very enjoyable. I thought Unagi played the underdog babyface very well. I do agree that it was an interesting dynamic with both being babyfaces. I thought that it was a really good story going in about Sayarida basically saying that she just saw Unagi as a stepping stone to Tam. And then afterwards, she said, basically she got a little bit of respect for Unagi. So even in defeat here, Unagi still comes across as quite strong. She's winning people over. It never crossed my mind that Unagi was going to win this. And it didn't hurt my grade of the match. It certainly didn't hurt my enjoyment of the match. I thought she gave a very good account of herself, as she did against Utami. I don't think it's quite as good as a Utami match, but it's a solid enough Future of Stardom championship match. Solid Hoss match. I gave it 2 3/4.
I basically agree. I gave it 2.5. It was fine. It's a fine enough opening match for the Future of Stardom title. Like, this is about what you should expect from it. It's basically a learning title at this point, I think. So I'm fine with it. 2.5 for me. And if Ida can just start harnessing Reptar, she'll start going up the card pretty soon.
Match 2 then saw Natsupoi defeat Konami at 8 minutes and 3 seconds via disqualification. Now,
do you remember earlier in the year when Saki? when Konami talked about the different kinds of a weather tie?
I do remember. I knew you were going to bring this up.
Like, well, okay. Apparently, no. To be fair, it did look like she genuinely tried to cheat and then got caught. Like, it's not like Tora, where it seems to be on purpose. Like, she genuinely attempted to cheat and didn't do it very well.
I think as well, you've got to think that this is a prelude match to the Goddesses of Stardom tag title match, which is going to take place again on the 30th at Korakuen. And you can sort of ride the narrative, though, even though she loses by DQ in what is effectively a throwaway singles match second on the card with no stakes, the injury can affect the result on the 30th. That is what I took from it. Apart from the DQ itself, I actually really, really enjoyed this match. It was leading towards Konami's best singles match since... Well, I really enjoyed the Julia match. I know it was pretty divisive, but let's say the 5-star, where we can all agree that she was fantastic.
Yeah, this is really fun. Again, Natsupoi actually being positioned as an equal to people on the roster now is nice. The staff, I really like the staff, and I don't know why. I think I just like it when things spin. I can't explain it, but I've always liked it when things spin.
Such a simple
So, like, okay, if you can't find the joys in the small things, what can you find the joys in? But yeah, this was fun. I'm just kind of annoyed because this was so fluid as well. Like, nothing felt out of nowhere. It felt like what they were doing was the natural progression of what we were doing before, which is weirdly hard to pull off sometimes. I mean, New Japan can't fucking manage it. So it kind of just got mad by the DQ finish. I look forward to seeing these two probably rematch in either the 5-star or the Cinderella, because I think then that'll be great.
It's the most savage I've seen Konami in a long time. And it's the best Konami because she was laser focused. She targets that right arm of Natsupoi relentlessly. And she seems to get this savage pleasure from it. And it's something that's been lacking from her character. She's done it, but she hasn't really had any conviction about it. And she really, really went for Natsupoi here. And Natsupoi sold it so well. Even after doing a big move, she's falling into the ropes. She's got her arm held. She's shaking her arm. So that you're constantly reminded that, right, she's doing this, but her arm hurts. And again, like you, Chris, the only criticism that I can level at this match is that we only got 8 minutes and 3 seconds of it. But it's a prelude, again, to a match later on. That being said, the fluidity and the chemistry that both women had with each other, I gave it 3 1/4. And yes, that might be high with a match with a DQ finish. But I think, and again, I don't often think this about Oida Tai DQs, but I thought it plays into the story that they're trying to tell, heading into the tag title match. I think it's the way that they tried to use the chair as well was more unique than just hitting her with it. She continued to target the arm with it, which worked. So overall, if we get this Konami in the tag match, if we get this Konami going forward, I'm more than happy.
Yeah, basically the same. I'm as someone who really wanted this match now, I'm kind of sad this is how it ended though. But that's kind of the point of this match. It's not meant to be the last time these two meet, so yeah, it was fun for the meantime. I went as high as 3 for this one.
We're not a million miles apart so far, which is good because I imagine we're going to be miles apart in the main event. So
I'm gonna be burned. I'm gonna be literally burned. I don't mean like in a Twitter sense. I'm gonna be like put on the stake and burned.
Only if you deserve it.
I mean, like Garth would probably be there. Like
Garth would be the one with the torch, mate.
Yeah, he's like, I don't even know why we're here, but I've been waiting for years.
Match 3 then, High Speed Championship on the line. Azumi, the champion, defeated Kaori Yoneyama at 5 minutes and 48 seconds with the grounded octopus stretch. The big thing out of this, of course, that this is Death Yamasan, Gokiken Death's, in inverted commas, real face. Azumi said she wanted to take on Gokiken Death's real face.
I think you have it. But what I think's happened here is Gokiken Death's went to Mexico to help El Generico with the orphans.
Oh, I see.
And they may look similar. They may have also similar movesets and the same theme. But you'd be mistaken. Gokiken Death has somehow defied all COVID rules in existence and has went to Mexico to help El Generico with the orphans, along with Johnny Mundo and Kevin Steen.
Well, as you can imagine, it's quite easy to bypass security when you dress like a clown, really inconspicuous like.
Yeah, she's part of that Joker cult you see at the end of that movie.
The Korakuen are unusually hot for this veteran, and skeptical as I was that the person behind Gokiken Death could still go, I was pleasantly surprised. I mean, people had said that she could go, and I was like, she just does the death things, but I really was pleasantly surprised. The pair had good chemistry, as you would hope for someone who apparently taught Azumi in her early career at Young Fighter. I got the impression that initially Azumi was taking it easy on Yoneyama, but after being hit with a knee from the apron, missile dropkick to the back of the head, you got the impression she then turned it up a notch. And then pulling her out of the pin for an arm breaker, submitting her with a grounded octopus stretch. You just got the impression that, right, okay, I've taken it easy on you now. I'm gonna end you now. It was a case of when the match was going to end in Azumi's favour and not if. There's only so much you can fit in 5 minutes, to be perfectly honest. And despite how impressed I was with Kaori Yoneyama and the chemistry that she had with Azumi, I mean, Azumi's got chemistry with fucking everyone. So this was a good match, but it has a ceiling because it was only 5 minutes. I did think it was really funny that Yoniyama got possessed by the spirit of Death Yama-san right at the end and stamped on Azumi's foot, which I thought was really funny. And then Natsupoi comes out when Azumi lays out an open challenge for Budokan on the 3rd of March, which is absolutely the right decision. I think Natsupoi versus Azumi, if you give them time, if you give them the amount of time that you gave to Azumi versus Starlight Kid, and to a lesser extent, Azumi and Mei Hoshizuki from Osaka Dream, they're going to put on a phenomenal match. They're going to put on a phenomenal match. And no, I was going to say I think Natsupoi's going to take the belt, but I don't think she is. I think Starlight's going to take the belt off Azumi. But I think it will be an absolutely fantastic match. And again, if they open the show with that and they give it 11, 12 minutes like they did in Yokohama, I think it's going to be a really, really, really good match.
Yeah, this match was... It felt a lot more... It felt more fleshed out than the 5-minute runtime would lead you to believe it would be. Like, they still throw in a lot here. There was still an arc in this match. They still find time to slow down and not completely destroy the pacing, which is to be absolutely commended. Yeah, I was kind of with you, where I was like, okay, I get that Yoniyama used to be really good from what we're told. But she might have been just before. I think if I remember rightly, she was just before the death gimmick when I got onto Stardom. If I remember rightly, I might be thinking of someone else. And she was mostly working like rookies. And now but like she's been deaf since last year, and that's basically all I've known her as. So seeing her actually putting together a match was surprising. One thing I wasn't thrilled with was Azumi using the Hurricane Rana through the ropes again, like just on what is essentially a filler defense.
Are you saying that it should be more of an impact thing in one with more of a build?
Mm-hmm. Like, for example, look at the German suplex spot that Kota Ibushi does. I don't fucking pop for that anymore. Because he does it all the fucking time. And it's completely... unless someone's flipping out of it, it's lost all impact. Because we've seen him do it a million times. Like, think also... Like, for a non-Japanese wrestling example, think the swing when Cesaro did that all the time. Like, that became something... Not like obviously this isn't on the same level, but if Kenta Kobashi did the burning hammer all the time, that move wouldn't be half as revered as it is.
That's why you come to this podcast, ladies and gentlemen, for comparisons between Azumi and Kenta Kobashi. You don't get them anywhere else.
I have had them fight before in Fire Pro, and Azumi lost in 5 minutes to a burning hammer. But yeah, but do you see what I mean, though? Like, since that isn't like a finish, I think it should be something that's used sparingly.
I completely agree with you. Because it is the first time I saw her break it out, I was like, fucking holy shit, that looked savage. And then she pulled it out against Mei Hoshizuki, because I think she pulled it out before then. And then she pulled it out against Mei Hoshizuki, and then she's pulled it out again here. I don't just want it to be another part.
It's a title match. Yeah, it's a title match, so let's do it.
Exactly.
Like, for example, like, because there's loads of examples, like Okada's wrist control moment. Has that meant a fucking thing since Wrestle Kingdom 10 with how often he did it?
No, I completely get what you're saying. Are you happy about the Natsupoi challenge for Budokan? Do you think that's a good direction to go in?
We've been saying every podcast since Natsupoi's debut that we want the Azumi match.
It was literally the first thing we said. The Yokohama Cinderella debut, we said exactly that same thing.
I want it, and I want it bad. Just quoting Teenage Kicks there.
Jesus. I gave it 2 3/4 stars, Chris.
Oh, I went we have differed here. I went 3.5. I thought it was really good for the time allotted.
Okay, well, I'll rise. I'll go 3.25.
Oh, you'll rise, will you?
Fuck's sake. Jesus. Right, let's move on to match 4. Now, this was a match that I really, really, really enjoyed. This was Tam Nakano defeating Starlight Kid at 10 minutes and 53 seconds with a Tiger Suplex. Just quickly, Chris, was the unspoken stipulation of this match that you have to win with a Tiger Suplex?
No, but they did mention it in the pre-match promo. But they wanted to prove that they had the best Tiger Suplex because, like, Tam, that's her secondary finisher anyway.
Yeah.
So,
and Starlight beat Tam at Osaka Dream with the Tiger Suplex. And
Starlight apparently just wants to be Tiger Mask. She mentioned that in the promo. She's like Tiger Mask is like it. Yeah, there's a reason it's called the Tiger Suplex.
I wouldn't hate that. To be fair, if Starlight transitioned.
I'm pretty sure there has been a girl Tiger Mask before.
That would be quite cool. That would be really cool.
Tell Tiger. Girl Tiger names. Why is that there?
What?
Sorry, I put in Girl Tiger. Couldn't put in Girl Tiger. The second one is Girl Tiger from Ice Age. So I guess in one of the Ice Age movies there's a Girl Tiger. I put in Girl Tiger Mask and I just got a bunch of furry stuff. Oh no. I'm just going to close that tab and pretend I never mentioned it. But yeah, like especially with like the Bushiroad connection, it maybe wouldn't be the worst thing, but also I think that would help prevent Starlight not have her identity. But also, if you're going to have the one, like for the sake of maybe New Japan fans, they want to bring in, because there have been some efforts to make Stardom more New Japan-y, most notably match length. We'll fucking get onto that. So that would make sense. I wouldn't hate it either. Although, like, because if you're going to have only one roster member with a mask, why not? Because it's basically a Tiger Mask anyway, isn't it?
Yeah, more or less.
Yeah, this match itself, I really enjoyed. As shown has been like the 5-star match, which I believe we gave 8. These two do have really good chemistry. Tam works really well with Starlight because Starlight's, of course, like zipping around all over the place, and Tam can just matrix around it. It's great. And then one thing I can commend Starlight for, and it's hard to do because loads of people struggle with this, is setting up apron moves very naturally.
Are you talking about the apron DDT?
Yeah, that's so easy to make convoluted.
It looked fantastic.
Yeah, and it wasn't convoluted. Like you would, people do that all the time. Do like the shoulder tackle thing all the time. Like even like her Tiger Feint kick or 619. If I don't know why I preface it. Anyway, when she does that doesn't feel like Rey Mysterio has been doing that move for almost 20 years now. And he still can't always do it naturally. It still sometimes feels, still most of the time feels forced. Whereas when Starlight does it, it doesn't feel all that forced. Which is impressive because, again, she's working with a lot less experience than Rey Mysterio.
I get the impression that Starlight is the mini-boss that Tam has to overcome before the Mayu match.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think whenever someone faces Ishii before going on to Okada, or basically that, I can't think of a better example, really.
They've got tremendous chemistry, and from having been in a unit for so long together, that opening sequence where they reverse each other's moves, it's such an easy sequence, but it looks so smooth, and everything in this match looked smooth, as Chris mentioned. Even what can be perceived as convoluted, getting someone into position for an apron DDT through the ropes, it just felt so clean, so smooth, and most importantly, so natural. You got Starlight Kid sort of ramping up her aggression, which, again, we've commended her for on previous podcasts. Tam, we get the exact mirror of the finish of at Osaka, but Tam kicks out and then manages to basically blitz Starlight Kid with some running knees and then hit her with the Tiger Suplex. I really, really enjoyed this match. Considering it went 10 minutes and 53 seconds, it went by like that in the best way possible. I gave it 4 stars. I thought thus far it was easily the match of the night, and yeah, thoroughly enjoyed it. A really good step in the direction of the finish of Stars and Cosmic Angels storyline. Yeah, overall, really, really good match.
Yeah, booking wise, it all made sense. And as a match, Tam is just the master of taking 10 minutes and putting in the most in there without making it feel like a stupid PWG spot fest.
Agreed.
Which is hard to do. You look at the Champions Carnival, where so many people were given around this amount of time, and none of them could use it properly because they don't seem to know how to pace a 10-minute match. Whereas Tam, you look at like her best match with Julia went around 12. Her match with Kagetsu, which was in my top 25, went 11, and her match with Mei, which was fucking incredible, went less than 10. So she's the master at making sprints feel fleshed out.
Yeah,
so
layered with story.
And then you give her this is like on the inverse though. You give her 28 minutes like you did with Julia, and that match was a bit of a slog at points. So yeah. I think you know how to use Tam in that respect.
Less is more.
Less is more with Tam. You restrict her minutes. She's like insert football. Who's a football player where you should restrict their minutes on the pitch?
Just pick any of the Newcastle team.
Okay.
Don't Google a Newcastle player. I know what you're doing. Don't Google one. You're better than that.
No, I'm not.
No, I know.
You know.
I know. What did you give it, Chris?
This match I'll give it 4 as well. It's my spoilers. It's my starter match of the year thus far.
Wow.
I did really, really enjoy it. I definitely see it being topped, but in regards to both this show and what we've covered so far, yeah, this is starter match of the year so far. For me, it was really fun.
Match 5 then saw a 3-way elimination tag team match with the Queen's Quest team of Saya Kamatani and Momo Watanabe finally eliminating, I said 3-way, 4-way is what I meant, Donna Del Mondo team of Himika and Shiori with Uedatai team of B and Saki and the Stars team of Mayo and Ruaka at 15 minutes and 4 seconds.
Mayo.
I know. I was desperate to try and get that out and hoped that nobody had noticed that I called her Mayo. Yeah, with the Star Crusher. So, me calling her Mayo sort of plays into how Mayo approached this match because she struggled with everything. Bless her. In this match, didn't she? She struggled throwing her wristband, not once, not twice, 4 separate times she tried to throw that wristband, to the point where Himika just burst out laughing, completely ruining any kayfabe that they had, that there was any sort of, like, tension or sort of, like, just anything in the match. Momo pissed herself. It was a bad day to be Mayu. And then she stood on the apron whilst everyone was on the outside because everyone else had been taken out, and she just sort of stood there and was like, oh, okay. So then she hid behind the turnbuckle, which made the crowd laugh. It was all just
a rich tapestry.
It was. She did the suicide dive like I mentioned before, but otherwise it was just a very strange match. The rules were as follows. Basically, it was similar to a Cinderella match. So the eliminations occur via pinfall, submission, count out, DQ, and over the top rope to the floor. And that was something that I must commend this match on. It was a little bit confusing, but it was still very fun. The one thing that I did commend them on was the over the top rope spot. Rather than just hoiking someone over the top rope, it felt very natural. And Mayu attempting to go for the double arm lucha takedown, basically. She goes to the top rope, and Saki just literally pushes her off. I thought that was really, really good. I thought it was really, really smooth. This was effectively a filler match, but it was a fun filler match.
Mm-hmm. Well, to put forward how much of a filler match it was, when I initially watched through the show, I forgot it. Like, so I ran through the show in a weird order because of how Stardom releases things. So I saw the main event first, and then the Julia Natsuko Tora match, and then I went backwards today and watched the rest of it. Apart from, so I finished that up around 12 in the afternoon, right? So I then go away, have my lunch, have a walk, cry, and then I come back. Opening, I'm looking over the results of everything to make notes coming into this, mostly about Reptar. And then I'm like, oh, I've missed a match. Fuck. So I had to go back and watch it. One thing we have skirted over is today is I skipped through the promos on everything I was watching that wasn't on this show, so I hadn't realized the saga of Shuri calling Momo Snoopy, which is fantastic.
And then just a way of baiting her was post-match just holding a Snoopy keyring at her. And it's that's the most year 5 bullshit I've ever seen.
To be fair, Snoopy's not even the best member of Peanuts.
Nah, he's not, to be fair.
Yeah, he's kind of, it's like how Mickey Mouse is the worst of the main Disney crew. I'd rather hang out with Donald, although he's a bit unstable, but he seems fun. I'm sure he has some ketamine in his in his bill.
Donald Duck on ketamine. Amazing.
Well, but thing is, when you think about it, it's like, why is Goofy friends but Pluto pet?
Fuck.
I've just blown your mind, good one. Anyway, this match. But it's just kind of just an everyone in the pool. We have nothing else for you to do in this card kind of thing. And they played it off like that. It wasn't like TNA X Division where they tried to do mad flips. Although Saki did get really fucking creative. Saki's my second favorite part of this match, because she did a double roll up at some point and made it not look stupid. It was incredible.
It was really good, yeah.
It was like going for a goal thing or something, and she just pushed him down and then pushed him over. It was great. And then B doing a handshake thing at the start. We used to talk about Shuri being so expressive to the point of sometimes being annoying, but oh my god, B is so expressive to the point where she's always fucking annoying. I don't hate B, right? I like B. I defended B throughout most of the title reign, but since this Kingdom shit started, she's become a bit insufferable.
Empire Kingdom's completely different thing.
Right. Sorry, I'm not watching much New Japan. Yeah, since this Empire shit happened. Kingdom's Matt Taven stuff, isn't it? Yeah. So I don't know. She was still fine here, although B along with May did the least in this match. My favorite part though was the stuff between Shuri and Momo, because we just went back to kicking each other.
It seemed to be basically a way of having everyone in the ring, like you mentioned before, everyone we haven't got, big storylines for, get everyone in the ring, and then whittle it down so that we can still have that moment between Momo and Shuri. And the best moment of this entire match was where Shuri went for a lariat, missed, and Momo hit her with the tequila sunrise. But it was all in one smooth, fluid motion. Yeah. It looked amazing.
That's the thing about Stardom. They're so good in that even in throwaway matches like this, they put together nice little sequences just because of how well they work together. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Just so we've got the eliminations noted, Stars were eliminated at 7 minutes and 33 seconds by Saki literally just pushing Mayu off the top. Awida Tai were then eliminated at 9 minutes and 44 seconds after Shuri locked in the Blue Dragon on Saki Kashima. And then, this surprised me, Chris, I'm not going to lie, that Saya Kamatani was the one to get the final pinfall over Himika with her version of the fisherman driver, which she calls Star Crusher.
After no selling that Psycho Driver.
after no selling the Psycho Driver, yes, correct, because she is Super Saiya. I originally was quite shocked that it was Saiya who picked up the pinfall, but then, looking to later on in the night, it's not a great surprise. It looks a very, very good move, and the fact that she's able to get someone like Himika into that move was very, very impressive. Overall, this was good. It furthered the storyline between Momo and Syuri. It had some entertaining moments in it. It wasn't a bad match by any stretch of the imagination. I gave it 2 3/4, Chris.
Oh, I gave it 3 1/4. I severely enjoyed it. Severely. That makes it sound like it's terminal or something. I really enjoyed this match.
Fair enough.
I just had a lot of fun. It was a very fun little match. And not gonna lie, a lot of the fun was the stuff before the match for Mayu, not being able to throw her armband, and for Snoopy. I do hope that just continues, because now the problem she's being called a loser by B, and now it's being called Snoopy by Shuri.
She's having a bad time, isn't she?
Yeah. By the way, we haven't mentioned it on this podcast yet, but I sent this to you when I saw it happening. Have you seen Shuri didn't make it she didn't make it onto the poster for this show. She superimposed herself onto the poster, and it's incredible.
It's amazing. It is absolutely fantastic. But she's just superimposed loads of different expressions as well, so it's different faces of Syuri. Oh, it's fantastic.
And, on some of them, she's just put herself on the top, but when she's done that, she's also changed people's faces to other ones of it. She changed Himika's face to another one of Himika's faces. It's she very clearly was just I have time to kill, and I have a Photoshop app on my phone. So
brilliant.
It's incredible. Underrated shitpost. I want to see Shuri kick posting as a Facebook group by the end of the week.
Semi-main then, match 6, the Wonder of Stardom Championship match. No rules, no holds barred. Julia, the champion, defeated Natsuko Tora at 18 minutes and 34 seconds with the glorious driver. So, Chris, this wasn't good in a conventional way,
in a convention.
Well, by conventional standards, Chris, this match blew.
Taste aren't conventional. To be fair, that's a pretty apt quote with the chains, but yeah. So actually, Rob, I did your job for you, and I went to the Discord today to sort of gather thoughts on the 2 main events. And most people seem to be very entertained by this match. From what I've read, they sort of agree with you, where it's conventionally not very good. But I forget who put it. One of the members of our Discord said they were sports entertained by this match.
It was Niagara Driver.
Okay, so here's the thing. My normal and I think also Rob's main criticism of Tora is that she goes too far too often. Whereas here, she didn't go far enough. You wanted me to live tweet this match for you, to you, which scared the shit out of me because it made me think that Tora won, and I don't think I'd be able to go into the Discord for a week just because of how smug Velkage would be. But so I was live tweeting it, and they had these blocks that you have in karate studios that you karate chop for reasons. And I think they were meant to be cinder block, but they were very, very clearly made of plastic, very clearly. And then the table was made if you notice when it broke, it looked like it was made of fucking cardboard. So It was weird, because I was talking about when we were talking about this match, I expected them to go further. I expected there to be blood, barbed wire, chains. Well, there was chains, I guess. But I don't know, a knife. A samurai sword, a gun, something. I don't know, because for Tora, this almost felt run of the mill. And I was thinking about when she did the hanging spot, how impactful it would have been if she'd have just done the hanging spot once or twice, or even not at all before this. How impactful that hanging spot be? Because there's been a few. Because I'm going to bring up a different match as a example of how this kind of match can be done well, because I don't think this match was done well, and I wasn't incredibly entertained because they didn't go far enough for my taste. I wanted this match to be more like Crazy Time Banana Pants, if that makes sense. I don't like think back to Brody Lee versus Cody. Now, I'm not massive on that match as many people are, but hanging spot in an AEW context was brutal because you never saw that kind of thing in AEW. Whereas when that hanging spot happens in Stardom, I don't care. I don't fucking care anymore. Like, there's not like all this Natsuko Tora shit has seemingly been leading up to this, and it's led up to absolutely fucking nothing. Like, this kind of match can be done well. One night when like people, a bunch of the Discord people in our server were online all at once. Belkage, I think, recommended an Oz Academy match, saying he saw it as perfect. And Belkage has unconventional taste. I mean, he likes the Vegeta match with Goji Izaki, but I try not to hold that against him. But I watched this match, and it was a mugging, basically. I forget who it was between. I forget the names. But the girl was absolutely mugged. Right? There was blood staining the ring. She was cut open, and it was like a corrupt referee kind of thing, so she kept being ganged up on. And like aspects of that were here, but we didn't go far enough because it never felt like Julia was in any trouble. The stipulation never got away from Julia. And that's how this match kind of should have worked with the heel face dynamic. It should be Tora 99% on the way back and not spending half a match dicking about with plastic cinder blocks. Like, the most brutal part of this match was near the start where we went through the chairs. And I'm sorry, that should be in classic, in like almost PWG style or even like Ishii match style. They started with the biggest spots first. And like, I guess Tora being hanged, as weird as this sounds, and I really hope my brother's not outside because he will ask me about this phrase, but Tora being hanged, I guess, was very cathartic in a way. But at the same time, I feel nothing about this. I don't even actively dislike it, despite how much I've talked about it. I just feel nothing about this match. I was in a constant state of numb throughout this match. I just didn't care.
It was packaged as a no rules brawl, which we've seen Julia excelling, against the likes of Hannah and Tam. And you're right, we should have had blood. We should have... Obviously, I don't condone people bleeding, but you know what I mean. You want that brutality.
Light tubes.
Maybe not light tubes, but you know what I mean. You want Tora to brutalise. That's what she wants. She got herself disqualified from so many matches in the 5-star for being too brutal. And then you're absolutely right. Here, we transitioned very much from a brutal brawl into what was coming dangerously close to farcical comedy. When the biggest spot is the chain hanging spot that we've seen a billion times before. And then let's not forget that Julia finished this match with one glorious driver, Mm-hmm. One. Now, both women, I think, should be commended.
It wasn't even onto anything, was it? It was just
a glorious driver. Now, I think both women should be commended for the bumps they've taken. Absolutely 100%. I loved Julia getting through the chairs. I thought that was really funny. I also thought it was really funny that Konami couldn't stack them all properly. And yes, absolutely, Julia hanging Tora with the chain, cathartic, brilliant, and then to have Julia say right at the end, I don't think you should use the chain anymore. I said to you, I will retrospectively give this match 5 stars if that's the case, if she doesn't use that fucking chain again. But I agree with you in the fact that Julia, it never felt like Julia was losing this belt. Ever. It never felt like Julia was in any sort of real strife. Like, did Tora really do anything in this match that we haven't seen her do before?
I haven't seen that leg drop in a while.
Okay, so we've
a wrestling move is, for one thing, we haven't seen from
We
Tora,
had to create a
like...
rule. We had to create a no rules brawl so that Tora could break our leg drop. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, we're completely in agreement here. I wanted this match to be good with all my heart, right? I've been saying I'm cautiously optimistic ever since this match was announced. That all earned possible optimism Tora has is gone now. Like, at least for this iteration of Tora, and this gets pointed out to us a lot, and we know that part of it is how Tora is booked and not Tora as a wrestler. We've mentioned how Tora has flashes of brilliance, but there's none of that here. I mentioned in my notes, and well, by the way, my notes was me live tweeting it to Rob because he asked me to. I mentioned that all the non bullshit points of this match, so like all the actual wrestling bits where they're running the ropes or whatever, they didn't work well together here. They kept putting feet wrong. They kept being in the wrong place, like only slightly, but enough to come off as awkward. So, like,
yeah, I agree.
And it's a shame because I've come around on Julia more recently, and I still want Tora to be good, but she's just not right now. And a presence like a bullish, like basically an 80s ski movie bully, is what Tora is going for, only with more hanging. So kind of like holes. I won't lead you down another rabbit hole, onions. Yeah, I just don't. I'm disappointed. I was actually looking forward to this match because I was looking forward to seeing what Tora was like when she was let off a leash. But like, it feels like she was put on a more restrictive leash, which is weird.
If you want to build Tora as the leader of this heel faction, surely here is the chance to build her as that brute, as that person who will stop at nothing to get the win, who will literally brutalize the champion. But I didn't feel it.
I'm not saying I can book better, but here's what I do. I would have in the pre-match promos, when we're saying it, when we're doing it backstage, have Julia standing there with DDM and have Oedetai come and take out the rest of DDM. And then the entrances have to happen. And then Julia comes out alone, but Tora is with the rest of Oedetai, and Oedetai basically spend the match mugging Julia. Like, and there's maybe a lot of the same spots, but because they're being mugged, it kind of adds more to Julia. Julia feels like she's more in trouble, and then maybe have Tora win it, and then that could create some cool dynamics going forward into Budokan, right? That'll create somewhat of a hot feud, and you can, I don't know, have a steel cage match. That would be something different. People would probably scoff at the thought of that, but like, I don't know. I think it's better than what we fucking got. I think it's better because what we have now is Tora wanting the chance to be more violent in a title match for months, basically doing this to, like, in a kayfabe sense, to goad the champion into giving her a shot or whatever. And now it's for fucking nothing because she did the stuff she does in every match and lost.
Ultimately, what we're left with is an indictment of why Stardom don't do gimmick matches.
Yeah, well, I think gimmick match. It's not. I don't think it's for gimmick matches. But yeah, if you're not gonna go far with it, don't do it. Like, I'm trying to think of another wrestling example. For example, All Japan recently did a TLC match, and it wasn't very good. I don't think they went far enough with stipulation, and I think that's what's going here. Like, they want that on the bill. They want, like, the no rules match on the bill because it looks good on a poster. It looks good for marketing. But they don't want to actually have a proper no rules match, do they? Because, like, they're being thrown into the share spot, but it's basically no different from, like, in terms of a visual, from being thrown into, like, a barricade, or, like, we have seen people be thrown into the chairs in Stardom before. Like, it felt like if there wasn't a pandemic going on and they didn't have to, like, have the fans be away from the ring, they would just throw Julia into the crowd. It felt like it was just there because that's a beat they wanted to hit on, and they couldn't. So they thought of the laziest solution around it.
2 final points on this match. The first, and this was a little bit disappointing as well. There were bits, the entire table spot where Tora is fought off the top rope by Natsupoi and members of DDM. That is directly ripped off from the match that Oedo Tai and Tokyo Cyber Squad had from Yokohama Cinderella. So that wasn't even an original spot. And I think the biggest thing that's come out of this is, if you're going to do a no-rules match, you need to ascertain whether you want it to be more comedic or you want it to be serious. And I think this match, I spoke about this before, if you're packaging it as a comedy match, go balls to the wall with it, okay? Make it fun. Whereas this was sort of masquerading as a brutish brawl and came across as campy comedy. And that's where I start to not enjoy it.
I don't think they did the campy comedy. Like, if they were going to do campy comedy, they had to go completely on the... Like, in terms of the campy comedy spots, it felt a lot like the King of Pro Wrestling stuff in New Japan, where that's meant to be played for laugh, but I'm not laughing.
Exactly.
Like, it feels like someone... Like, the wedding in Shrek, where someone's holding signs telling you what emotions you should be conveying. It feels like there should be a little dude on the side. I don't know, maybe Rossi. He has dick all else to do. Holding signs telling us what emotion to feel. And like, I don't know. It's just, I don't even hate the match. Like it's not like some matches I watch. It's like, oh shit, that's going into the fucking minus, right? But this isn't one of them. It's not passable, but it's not laughably bad. Like, this is getting, like, say 1.5, which is like a 3 in a row system. That's what it's getting, and it's just bad. It's just plain bad. It's not even like interestingly bad. It's just it's almost like they had months to put this together and like as a school project and then did it the night before. This is like the equivalent of an essay thrown together the night before. Didn't even do their referencing, but lazy. Just, yeah.
And I agree wholeheartedly. I gave it 1 star and 3/4, so we're basically on the same page. I was just disappointed. And where does Tora go from here? I mean, she was the one who forwarded this stipulation. She was the one who fought for this no-rules match. She was the one who delivered on night 1 of the New Year Stars tour. She was the one that delivered a chair shot to the head of Julia. And I'm sorry, that's pretty much more brutal than anything I saw in this match.
Yeah. Oh well, could be worse. I could have had to watch an Ospreay match. So
anyway, let's move on to the main event, because this, I imagine, is where we're going to differ massively. Match 7, main event, World of Stardom Championship match, with Utami Hayashishita defeating Maika at 24 minutes and 12 seconds with the BT bomb. Chris, I'll let you go. Oh, well, no, I'm going to go first, because fuck you, that's why.
Because I need this win. Because...
No. I just... For me, going into this match, and perhaps I shouldn't have done, but I had a ceiling with this match. And Maika, who has been packaged tremendously, has been booked tremendously, and has future star written all over her, she's still a rookie, effectively. She's just shed the Future of Stardom Championship. And with that, I thought, right, well, this match is going to have a ceiling. And for me, this match played into both women's wheelhouses and didn't profess to be anything that it wasn't. It was a Hoss match that grew and grew and grew to a crescendo, which is what I wanted. You'd got Maika, who... She was laser-focused. She was vindictive. It's a vindictive side we haven't seen before. Slapping the roses out of Utami's hand, starting by targeting the arm and not breaking the count when Murayama tells her to. Utami responds with sort of working the back. And Maika sells the back really, really well. She still does the judo throws. She still does the monkey flips, but you feel it's more because she's a rookie and hasn't been in this position before, hasn't got other offense. She needs to do this, and she collapses into the ring ropes after she's done it. You know, it's more muscle memory. She hasn't developed a championship-winning arsenal as of yet because she is still a rookie. And then the action got stiffer and stiffer. You know, you saw the huge welts on Utami's face. And then they just go for the jugular, start dropping each other on their fucking heads. I mean, Maika's STO, the disgusting-looking release German suplex from Utami. Basically then, the end is Maika not being able to get any of her signature offense in because of her back. She eventually manages to hoist Utami up for the Sasanka and for the Enkara Toshi, but she still can't put her away. She still can't put that extra stamp on it because of the damage Utami's done to her back. And, with a little side note, best close two count I've ever seen. Tremendous, tremendous work. Utami sells like an absolute diamond for her, making that threat look very real. Not one person who watches Stardom thinks Maika's going to come out as the champion. Not one person. And still, Utami sold massively for her, and still you find yourself invested into the match. And eventually you just realise that Maika hasn't got enough. She hasn't got enough to put Utami away. She's thrown things at her, but she just cannot put her away. And Utami is too powerful. And eventually Utami's power comes to the fore. Hits a torture rack to start off with to really, really weaken that back. And then hits her with the BT bomb to win. I just thought it was a really excellent Hoss match. Not only does it prove that Maika can compete on this level, but it differs completely from the Mayu matches we've been used to. There wasn't one big spot. I can't go back to this match and give you, a pile driver on the apron or, a reverse Rana or whatever. I can't give you that one big spot. And it differs even to the Momo match back in December in its pacing. But because it just escalates, because it is that Hoss match that we haven't really seen yet, or for a while anyway, I just felt really, really invested in this match. Did it go a touch too long? Yes, it did. I think if you'd have capped this at 20 minutes, maybe even 21 minutes, cut out a little bit in the middle, then we would be talking of a match of the year contender. As it stands, it's just short of match of the year. Basically, I class anything as 4.5 stars and above as a match of the year contender. I think this is 4.25. I think it just falls short. But it's a massive statement of intent, including what happens afterwards, which we'll talk about in a minute. But it's a huge statement of intent that Stardom are not scared of looking to the future. And it's an exciting time. Because Maika, I don't care who you are, Maika surpassed every expectation in this main event match and looked fucking great. Your turn?
Okay, so I think one of the main differences between me and you is I'm a bit stingy with higher ratings. As you know. And it's weird because I've a match of the year to try going on Twitter, and I class anything 3 3/4 or higher to go on there. And okay, so all the positives you gave about this match are true. These are all just things that are good about this match. I think you guessed when you mentioned the length was my main problem here. I think 25 minutes was a bad length for this match. I think the story here was good because the way I'm seeing this, and tell me if I'm talking bollocks, you normally do, is this is a natural, slightly more violent progression from their Cinderella match. In that, but Mike has displayed a bit lower, but like, you know how he said there that that match felt like a good 15-minute match, but confined into a 10-minute time limit. Here,
Yes.
I kind of feel the opposite, where I think this is a really, really, this would have been like a 4.25 star 15-minute match stretched out to 25.
I do agree it was stretched. I do agree with that.
Yeah, and like, I know, I think it might be because of my now strained relationship with New Japan and even like NXT. But part of these problems where like a way too long length does bother me, because you said about a few minutes off this, I'd shave 10. I'd shave 10 and just up the violence. And like, I know we shouldn't critique matches for what they are, but what they aren't. But like, I'm just saying that's how I'd play the dynamic we're playing off here, because it's a good dynamic. Like, I did still really like this match. I think especially for Maika's skill level, well, not skill level because she's incredibly skilled, but for her experience level is a better way to put it. This is, like you said, far beyond what we should expect from someone who is... hang on, I'm going to double check how long she's been going. She's been going... It still says 1 year on Cage Match. That's insane.
I don't think. I think she's been going longer than that. She's been a year in Stardom.
Career. All right. So she's just started in 2019. 18 months. Oh yeah, she started in May of. Okay, she's closing on. Yeah, about 18 months in ring experience. That's still nuts. Like, I can't imagine being at something for a year and being that good at it already. Like, you can see like young lions coming back in New Japan right now. Like Oka is struggling to find his feet a bit, and he's been wrestling for double that. And you can see it on like indie scenes that up in Britain, or even in America, where someone's been going for 18 months, and sometimes they wouldn't even be put in the ring at that point. So it's incredibly impressive that she had such a good match here. They shouldn't have made her go 24 minutes. Like, I understand I'm focusing on one thing, but it's a damning thing in the context of this match, because 25 minutes is what like the top main matches would go. Like, that's the high end of what main matches would go. And she didn't ever have to face someone. Like, she has more experience than Itami, and she never had to face someone as... don't want to say inexperienced, but like as fresh as Maika. So you can just sort of tell they weren't entirely, like, at least I sort of pulled off of it, they weren't entirely comfortable going the length they did. Because part of this match, I want to say the first third was them retreading water from their Cinderella match. And then the violence was up. I think if you trimmed that bit and then got to the violent bit quicker, I think we'd have a... Like, I'd definitely be on the same level with you at that point.
See, the length of the match, to me, it wasn't to the detriment of the overall match. I do agree. I think 10 minutes is extreme. I think 10 minutes is excessive. I think if you cut 5 minutes out of that, then we look at a match of the year contender. But I don't think that there was a moment in this match where, well, for me anyway, I'm not looking at it going, this is dragging now. This is dragging, they're just filling for time. I don't feel that, because I just feel like it wasn't peaks and valleys. It was starting at one level, slow, build. It was a slightly slower build than perhaps we wanted with this match, that perhaps you wanted with this match, that perhaps Maika needed in her current in-ring experience. But I don't think what they filled that 24 minutes with was bad at all. I think we had a great opener. Like you said, the callbacks to their Cinderella match. Brilliant. I really, really enjoyed that. And the fact that we saw that character progression from Maika, where we saw her go vindictive, we saw her go for the arm, trapping it in the barricade, kicking the barricade, not breaking the count, to then going into desperation, violence, literally just slapping Utami, trying something completely different, and then transitioning to just, I've got to try and survive this. okay? And that character arc that we get in those 24 minutes didn't make it feel massively long to me. Certainly not 10 minutes too long. Certainly not.
Oh, that's the thing. I don't think cutting 10 minutes off... Like, 10 minutes off is like me going extreme there. Me cutting 10 minutes off is like where I'd be at, where I'd be raving about it. Cut 5 minutes off, I'd probably wouldn't be complaining about length as much as I am. It's a hard thing to explain, because like I wasn't bored, but like you mentioned that a steady escalation. I didn't see the escalation as steady. I thought we were on one level, and then at a certain point, a flip. We were flicking through a switch. Like there was 3 levels, and we went up. Like, because when I got to the violent bit, like I was texting you while I was watching this, and I was like, oh, that German was particularly violent, and like I love violent stuff, as you know. I enjoyed the slap off, but the thing is, they did the slap off, went away, did other things, but went back to the slap off, and for me, there wasn't any significant difference between the two. And the slap off came after the suplex spots. Like maybe the slap off spot went longer, and then we didn't have a slap off spot after the German. I think it was Velkage in our Discord mentioned he doesn't think that's a detriment. I don't necessarily think it's a detriment. It stuck out weirdly to me. The thing is, I don't even dislike this match. I don't even think I really like this match. It's on the cusp of being on that on my list. It just didn't quite make it for me.
I think the slap off worked. I mean, I completely see what you're saying. I'm not being negative about what you've said at all. But to me, you can see that as Maika revisiting something because she hasn't got the offense to build anything else, because she is ultimately a rookie. It could be the story of her offense being found out because she only has 18 months in-ring experience. That's how I viewed it. And that's why I said earlier about her still throwing the judo throws and the monkey flips, despite the fact that she's had her back worked for 5 minutes. But then, she sells it. She sells it a lot better than, for example, Saya Kamatani. But the selling of that and the fact that she goes back to the slaps, it almost tells a story of that desperation. I don't know what else to do. I've thrown everything at you and you won't stay the fuck down. And that, for me, is compelling. The time...
Oh, it was compelling enough for me. I just didn't rave about it. I just don't think it was that level, if you get me.
I agree. I agree with you, and I know what you're saying, and I am disagreeing with you, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
The time for me wasn't the be-all and end-all in this match. I didn't see it as the sole negative in the match. I thought it went long, and I think if you ask anyone that liked the match, they will agree that it went long. However, I think the storytelling, I think the action, I think the character development, especially on the point of Maika, and the fact that they were able to put on this match, I think deserves that recognition. I think it is a 4-star match. It is a 4.25 star match. For me, it's everything that it should be. Because aside from the timing issue that you mentioned, I can't see how this is any different to the Tam and Starlight Kid match that we've given 4 stars to. This, for me, is better than that match. Yes, I agree that Tam is fantastic at those short sprints, and they're different types of matches. I understand that. But this, for me, was a really, really, really good match. And more importantly than whatever we rate it, it elevates Maika. And I think that's the most important thing to come out of this match.
I'm more sold on Maika getting more big matches down the line after watching this match.
Yeah, me too. Absolutely.
I do think she was definitely, like, both these girls were fun to... Because, like, a lot of new people would have come into Stardom in, say, the last 18 months. Like, we're 2 of those people. Well, maybe it was, like, 2 years ago. But you know what I mean? Like, we're 2 of those people who came in more recently. Like, we're in, like, that wave after Io Shirai got big in WWE and stuff.
Mm.
And so, like, immediately you're going to think back to last year's 9th anniversary show, which was exceptional. And then you had, in the main event, Momo versus Mayu. And because it's at the same event, it's going to draw comparisons almost. Not almost. It's unfair to compare the two just based on both experience and the type of match they're going to have. I think these two did exceptionally well with all the things that could have went against this match. This match could have very easily, it probably wouldn't have been, but it wouldn't have been hard to make this match an absolute shit show. And we had already seen an absolute shit show before this match. Yeah, so again, all the praise I see for this match is valid. I haven't seen anyone talk about this match and think so you know how sometimes you see someone, especially on Wrestle Kingdom Day, you see someone talk about a match and in the back of your head it's do they actually like it this much, or are they just trying to convince themselves it's that good? And you can sort of tell the difference when it comes to how they talk about the match. I've not seen anyone talk about this match and think, oh, they're again, all the praise I've seen for this match I agree with. It just didn't, it's just one of those cases where it didn't land as well for me as it did for other people. I've had plenty of matches like that, and so have you. For example, I don't like Segura versus Go from last year. Everyone loves that match, and I'm trying to think of an example with you.
The big example for me is the Arisa versus Utami match.
Yeah, that's the thing. But the thing is, that match was a lot more divisive. But again, this match is kind of divisive as well, isn't it? I think it's my normal metric for this is cage match, but cage match seems to think this event is in the future. So.
Oh yeah, I've just realised that.
So I can't but that's mostly why I went to the Discord, because I have no real other way to do it, and everyone in there seems to like it. Some people seem to have a similar view to me, to you rather. And again, I can't fault it. It didn't land for me, and I know, even not in wrestling, in films, there's plenty of films Jurassic Park didn't land for me, but a lot of the criticism seemed valid, and a lot of the praise seems valid, but it just didn't land. It's sort of the same. When, to be fair, it's the same we all have in between me and Garth, major disagreements about, say, the Star Wars films, major disagreements. I try not to bring it up. And then sometimes I feel I just want an argument, so I bring up Star Wars in the group chat. But I can't, beyond what I've said, I can't really quantify why this match didn't land for me. It just didn't.
Subjective, man. Wrestling is subjective. Some matches land, some matches don't. It's not the end of the world. What we will talk about is what happens afterwards, as Saya Kamatani then challenges Utami to a match for the red belt at Budokan with, let's call it flimsy reasoning. I have no... These are her words. I have no record, but I do have a Star Crusher and a Phoenix Splash. Now, as far as challenges go to the red belt, that's a flimsy challenge, which Utami actually calls her out on, which is hilarious. And initially, she looks like she's going to refuse, but relents as she says that Stardom are looking toward their future. Kamatani claims that she is the future of Stardom, and Utami claims that she is getting ahead of herself. Now, I like the tag team challenger dynamic. I've always liked the tag team challenger dynamic, the upstart versus the old head. And Saya has undoubtedly been getting better. And this is a huge statement, a bold statement of intent by Stardom to, assuming that it's the Red Belt match, it's going to main event. Just assuming for a second that it is, okay? Because it might do. It might be Mayu versus Yoshiko. It might be this. But to main event Budokan with Saya Kamatani versus Utami is an enormous statement of intent by Stardom to say we are investing fully in our future. We are focusing fully on the future. Now, I can't not like that. I cannot not like that statement. I think that's fantastic. I think it's tremendous, especially when you consider the future that Stardom has. You've got Azumi, who's just turned 18. You've got Starlight Kid, who's just turned 20. You've got who else have we got that's young? I mean, we've got
Momo,
who's 20. Utami's 22. I mean, for God's sake, Saya Kamatani is the oldest member of Queen's Quest, and she's 24.
And she's the rookie.
And she's the rookie, yeah. But when you consider that the stalwart, or one of the stalwarts of this division, of this entire roster, is Mayu, and she's 27. Jesus Christ, the future's bright. The future's orange.
Don't say that. It's too soon after that man left office to say future's orange. Anyway, so in terms of the, I'll go on to what I think about the actual about the match itself in a second. But in terms of flimsy reasons for challenging, that's not the flimsiest I've seen. To be fair, the flimsiest I've seen is Cody when Ibushi challenged.
Oh God, yeah.
Kenny Omega. And then Cody just walks into the room going, "Hey Kenny, we're friends.
How's about it?
Yeah, can I be in the match?" And it's some I have some AEW fans in my life, gross, but I'm willing to move on if you are. And they wonder why I don't like Cody to this day. That's fucking why. That is fucking why. But in terms of the match itself, I do agree it's a statement, and to be fair, part of me is thinking, is that really what you want to go with? But the other part of me is thinking, I don't want them to back out of this, because how much was both Okada and Naito's momentum sort of stuff? Well, Naito didn't have momentum, that was kind of the point. But how long did it take them to recover? After, it took Okada years with Tanahashi to recover from being voted out of that Wrestle Kingdom main event. And you don't want, on one hand, you don't want to hold off on crowning new aces, because you look at, say, Noah in the mid-2000s, where the belt basically defaulted to Misawa because there was no one else. Because Rikio hadn't gone down too well, Marufuji hadn't gone down too well, and what's his plus? I've forgotten his name. But three champions didn't go down too well. Akiyama didn't go down terribly well because of how it was booked, and you don't want to hold off on that, because main event scenes get stagnant quick. Look at New Japan. So. And that's not completely down to who's in it. That's also down to how it's booked. And Stardom seems to be making a conceited effort not to fall into formula, which is good. So, in terms of this match, as a statement, I like it. But I think we all kind of went out our minds a bit too much when we saw Budokan. If you get me? We all... and the closest I can think about is All In, where people expected CM Punk to turn up. People expected something crazy. They expected an IWGP Championship match against the TNA champion or something, and that was never going to happen. So I think part of the reason why this is a shock is because we expected more than Stardom was ever intending, but also it's not like this is bad. This is actually, again, because I'm racking my head every time he's going to be champion going into this. I can't think of, unless you were going to hold off on the Momo thing, which, I'm not being funny, could have really, because of the story we were telling with the Momo feud, could have really hurt her. I don't know. I can't think of a better match going into this. Who else would you have? Maybe, Tam would be cool, but also she has the stuff with May going on right now, so you'd have to sort of rush that one. You have, I guess you could do, if you're going by faction heads, you'd be left with sort of Tora or a May rematch, and I don't think a rematch should headline this. I think it should be something new, and I think it should be a statement. So I'm kind of happy they went with trying to make a statement in that we're a young person's company, we're going to continuously try and shake up the main event, because to be fair, Stardom's always shaking up the main event, but it's because they've mostly been forced to shake up the main event. People leave, awful things happen, so I don't know. I've been trying to work through my actual feelings on it ever since it was announced because I skipped through this promo because I had stuff and because I'd literally just sent my nieces and I was looking after them because me and my brother are the only ones in the house right now. So like Callum went out on like a walk with him. And so I was skipping through the promo so I wouldn't be watching wrestling when we got back. And I was talking to you about it, and I was like, "Oh, so Sai's challenging. That's interesting." It's like, "No, at least it's not Budokan." And you were like, "No, it is Budokan." It's like, "Oh, okay then." And I've sort of been trying to sort through it ever since, and I haven't quite sorted through it yet. As you can kind of tell by the fact I've been rambling for the last few minutes. I'm not quite sure what to feel about this yet, because I don't want to be that voice going, "Oh, just have faith that Stardom will do it well," because like I used to be that voice with New Japan and it burned me. So I just don't know what to think. I think it would be a good match at the very least. I think it's a good statement to make. But beyond that, I'm not quite sure what to think.
I can understand the criticism. Saya has improved greatly, like we talked about.
Mm-hmm.
There are gaping holes in his selling and things like that, but I don't want to focus on that. You've hit the nail on the head with everything you've said. I think it's great that they are putting so much faith in people like Saya, and a constant shake-up of the main event scene makes everyone on the roster feel important, and that's what you need to do. And I think Budokan's going to be a very, very interesting show. I think you're absolutely right. I think people have got misconceptions that they're going to sell out, or as good as they can do in COVID times. That they're going to be selling 3,000, 3,500 tickets to Budokan. They're not, because nobody aside from New Japan have that drawing power. So yes, it's going to be a big show. Yes, it's going to be the biggest show that Stardom run. But use this as an opportunity to make that statement, to say we are here and this is our future. And because you have got so many years ahead of them then to get invested in these people, I think it's a really bold move, and the more I think about it, the more I like it. So we'll see what else is going to be on the card, because at the moment, obviously, we only know that Azumi versus Natsupoi, and then the rumoured Mayu versus Yoshiko is on the card. And then, of course, they have announced that there will be a Rumble.
I haven't seen that. Fuck's sake, I'm so done with Rumbles.
Well, it's going to be nice. It's going to be interesting, and for people
at least it's not a Rambo. At least it's not
Jesus
a fucking
Christ.
Rambo.
Exactly. And actually, that does sort of play into a couple of the questions, because we're going to go into questions in a moment. I just want to quickly, Chris, go into the next couple of match cards. So, obviously, like I said before, the New Year's Stars Tour wraps up on the 24th with a day show and a night show. So the day show, Chris, this is the card. We open with Ruaka versus Natsuko Tora. Tag match, Saya and Utami versus Mayu and Lady C. Match 3, Saya, Ida and Starlight Kid versus Tam and Unagi. Looking forward to that match. I think that'll be great. Shiori and Natsupoi versus Momo and Azumi. Same for that. And then the main event is 6-woman tag, Julia, Maika, and Himika versus Konami, Julia, and Saki Kashima. So that is the daytime show. The evening show has got Ruaka versus Lady C as the opening contest. We've got singles match, Sayurida versus Himika. We've then got a 3-way elimination match, which apparently is Stardom's new kink at the moment, with the team of Queen's Quest, which is Momo, Utami, Saya, and Azumi, taking on DDM, Julia, Shiori, Maika, Natsupoi, and Oida Tai, Tora, Saki, Konami, and B. And then we close that with 2 singles matches, which I'm very, very much excited about. We have Starlight Kid versus Unagi, and we've got Mayu versus Tam. So those are the cards for the 24th. Is there anything that stands out on those 2 cards to you, Chris, before I go on to the Korakuen show?
Well, obviously, the Mayu versus Tam match. that's been building for, 3 months now? 4 months?
Are you surprised? Are you surprised they're throwing it away? Not throwing it away, that's unfair, but putting it here.
Yeah, throwing it especially on a 2-in-1 day card, because as a general rule, you should always expect lower quality in both cards, just because, well, the wrestling twice in one day.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so I am actually, like, I don't know. Like, where else would you fit it though? Maybe in a match in February, but then I guess they've realized that we need to build to this Yoshika match, so they just they realize we need to get out of the way.
I hope not, because this has been a really, really well-built feud. Considering it started on shaky ground, it's been a really, really well-built feud. It'd be a real shame to see them spaff it up the wall because they've got something else in the pipeline.
Yeah, maybe they do, like, it's weird, because I literally do think that's what it is, though. I think, like, they realize they can't rush the Yoshiko stuff. But Mayu has loose ends to tie up. So, like, I think the best way you could possibly do this is have Tam win. And then have that be like a cast. Like, for example, like, to draw a comparison, going back to WWE, you know when John Cena lost to The Rock and then it was but ended up with a supposed, like, bad kayfabe year, despite the fact he was still fucking winning. Do that, but have Mayu lose here, and then have Mayu lose at
Budokan.
In the Budokan, and then give Mayu that axe to grind. I think that's the best way you could do it without completely spaffing this feud, to be honest. So
let's have a look then at the Korakuen show then, just quickly whipping through this card. Open with a three-way battle, Natsukatora, Gokiken Death, and Lady C. We've then got a 6-woman tag, Starlight Kid, Saida, and Ruwaka taking on Utami, Azumi, and Saya Kamatani. We've then got a 10th anniversary special match between Mayu Iwatani and Saki Kashima. Tag match, Julia and Maika taking on Tam and Unagi. And then the 2 championship matches, we have got Bea Priestley and Konami, the Goddess of Stardom champions, taking on Himeka and Natsupoi. And then we are headed off with the SWA World Championship match, Syuri versus Momo Watanabe. And I just want to ask you, Chris, at @lone_Saber says, he's hyped, up there hyped, for the Momo versus Syuri title match scheduled for the 30th of January. Do you think we are going to see Momo as the new champion, or this match is only made to consolidate Syuri's dominance? Honestly, I'm rooting for Momo. In my opinion, no. Momo isn't winning this, and the only reason I say that is because the rules that they've instigated for the SWA Championship means that if Syuri holds the belt, there are more challenges, especially at the moment in the COVID era, whereas Momo, because she is Japanese heritage, she can't defend it against anyone from Japan, which means that it rules out damn near most of your roster. Keep it on Syuri, especially until this pandemic clears up. Well, that's my opinion, Chris. Are you of the same opinion?
Well, seeing how the SWA belt has been going, I wouldn't be completely surprised if Momo did win this and then we changed it, or but you just need to come from a different part of Japan. It's like, I'm from Tokyo. We are from Yokohama. Yeah, come in. Yeah, fine. Yeah. But yeah, I agree. It'd be a bit weird to put it on Momo, because then she can basically only face Syuri again or Bea. And I guess they're kind of building to a Bea thing, but they kind of... honestly, it seems like one of those things that Bea just does, and it's never going to go anywhere.
I get that impression as well, which is unfortunate.
So, unless it builds to a Bea thing, yeah, I don't see Syuri losing this, unless we just want Momo having a trinket to carry around. But if you're going to do that, I don't know why you'd integrate the Syuri rule to begin with. So yeah, I just see it staying on Syuri.
Let's hit some quick fire questions then, Chris, because this podcast has gone bafflingly long. So first up, Mad Genius Val on Twitter has asked, any first guess regarding the Cinderella tournament, potential winner, that kind of stuff? I had booking idea, but that's been squandered by the announcement that Mayu versus Tam is going to be done on the 24th. My idea was that, depending when the Cinderella tournament is, because it hasn't been announced yet, I assume now it's going to be after Budokan. My idea was that Mayu and Tam would meet in the final of the Cinderella tournament, with Tam going over there, which I think would make sense. It gives Tam another definitive win over Mayu. It gives Tam something. It gives her that thing that she hasn't had when she was part of Stars. And it gives her, more importantly, a shot at the red belt. Or the white belt. I mean, she has got that thing with Julia, don't forget that promise I gave you. So winning the Cinderella tournament would allow her to have that match with Julia. So there is that as well. I think Tam is a good shout to win the Cinderella tournament this year. But Chris, what about you?
Well, the last few, hang on, I'm not sure if it's Cinderella. I'm not going to bother, but the last few years we've used Cinderella to build someone, much like the New Japan Cup used to be. But like Arisa, who'd gone to be way, but this is actually mentioned last podcast when we asked about who we think would be pushed. Honestly, if Jamie Hay came back, I wouldn't rule out her. If she could come back, in terms of having to establish someone quickly, but in terms of, I'm trying to think of who they're looking to push going forward, because at the end of the day, Cinderella will be after Budokan, won't it?
You would have assumed so, yes. They've just got a load of holding dates for Korakuen at the moment. Yeah,
so, well, to be fair, Cinderella tends to be one day unless we're going to go crazy and expand the field. So I know it's hard to tell, because Stardom after Budokan is going to be much different to Stardom before. Well, not much different, but the landscape's we're going to do something to change the landscape on such a big show, like we saw it after Yokohama, where we had new roster additions, and after Sendai, where we had a new champion, or Astro Osaka, where everything was so solidified. After these big shows, the landscape tends to be at least a little bit different. So making a call now would be, I don't know how else to put it. It might be shooting your load a bit early. But if I had to guess, based on what we see now, based on who they might want to push going forward, someone from Cosmic Angels, maybe Tam, because she hasn't had a singles belt yet, has she? So that might be her catalyst.
When you consider as well that the last couple of people to win the Cinderella tournament have gone for the white belt, it makes sense.
Yeah,
I mean, who's won it? You've got Julia, Arisa, Momo, Toni Storm, Mayu, have all won the tournament. So
yeah, well, Tony, I'm pretty sure if I remember my history right, Tony's the last one who went for the red belt.
I believe so, yes. We could be wrong. Please correct us, but I think you might
be right.
This
is off the top, because it's after Tony. Tony was 2017, wasn't she? No, 2018. Tony. No, wait.
No, 2017, wasn't she? Because wasn't it Toni Storm, then Momo, then Arisa? Or am I doing that wrong?
Let's have a look. Cinderella 2020, this. Joshi said, right, why isn't there just a massive thing for... Yeah. No, because May was 2017, wasn't she? That's how she faced...
That's how she faced
Shirai, yeah.
No, that was 2016. That was 2016. She faced off with Io at May Gold.
Okay.
Gold
yeah,
May.
so then it would be Tony, and then Arisa was 2019, so I'm forgetting who 2018 was.
Momo.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. So Tony was the last one to go for the red belt. But you come here for our professionalism, obviously.
I'm just leaving it at that. So, final couple of questions. Lane Smackdown on Twitter has said, is Kairi Sane allowed to work for Stardom at an anniversary show, or is she still under contract with the WWE? She's still under contract with the WWE, so that was fairly easy to answer.
She was, yeah. We talked about this last time, didn't we?
We did. We talked about it at length.
And yeah, she's still contracted, and apparently there were talks, and they didn't go well. There's conflicting reports there, and it seems to be depending on how happy you are with the WWE existing. So that dicey ground. It's weird because there's not many insiders when it comes to Stardom, is there? It's a surprisingly small, especially in terms of like English speakers. It's a bit of a small knit group, isn't it? Like a bit tightly knit. So like you don't get many leaks. But which is why I'm saying if anyone works for Stardom and they want to be our insider, we will happily not tell Stardom, but we will, like, I don't know, push your Twitter.
Yeah.
Do you have a shit posting channel? We'll happily push that. We'll post your memes. And well, actually, depends what the memes are. We do have a hashtag image to upkeep, especially now that I'm a YouTube star. So,
final question then, Chris, and we'll do some final comments as well. Velkage just put in the Discord, matches set for Budokan so far. If we were to assume that Nene versus Momo and Yoshiko versus Mayu, overall thoughts, Chris, how do you feel about the card? I think we've already covered quite a lot of this, but just summarise it.
I think it looks solid. I think as big matches go, it's weird because like the main event, like when you think of like big shows, the main events will always be seen as match of the year contenders, but a lot of the time the undercard is just sort of it's not there to steal the show necessarily. Like you look at, say, New Japan match of the year normally comes from Wrestle Kingdom, but how often is that the undercard? There's normally the main event there. So I think if you have a good top 3 matches, you're completely fine. And they have a solid title match along with a what I imagine for people who follow Joshi like outside of Stardom and have been longer term Stardom fans than we are, is a dream match. So a young title match and a dream match, that's not bad going for a big show. And with Stardom's small roster where everyone's faces everyone all the time, that's probably the best you can do.
Agreed. Right, Chris, let's wrap it up there. Thank you so much for listening, guys. We really do appreciate it. You can tell we've missed doing these because we've gone a really, really long time. So props to you if you've got to this point in our podcast. You can check out the podcast. Thank you so much. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, whether that's Apple Podcast, Google Play, Stitcher, Podbean, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. We are everywhere. Don't forget to check out the website, www.podmania.co.uk. You can talk to us on Twitter at the Stardom Cast. Please join our Discord. It's a great place to talk all things wrestling. Everyone's really, really nice. They're really welcoming, so please go and check that out. You can talk to me on Twitter at RealRobGoodwin. Chris, where can they find you on Twitter? Because you actually do have a Twitter now after you moaned at me last time.
Yeah, well, I'm going to change the name, though. I don't like Viat, because Viat, basically I took over the old Stardom cast, not the old Start, the old Young Lion Twitter. And I'm not a fan of Viat, so I'm going to change Viat. But for now, it's at Chris Loves Puro.
Okay, don't forget to check out Chris's YouTube channel. It is good for the amount of shit I give him. Thank you so much for listening, guys. We will be back very soon. Keep your eyes peeled to our Twitter and our Discord for our next episode. We want to try and drop one before the Korakuen show and then after the Korakuen show. If that doesn't happen, then it'll just be both after the Korakuen show. Thank you so much for listening, guys. And we'll talk to you guys again soon.